Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. So, about a week or two ago, I did a video about the 10k subscriber thank you and Q&A. This is going to be the video where we go over the Q&A, and I'll give my answers. Last time we did this, it took about 2 hours, so sit tight, relax, and enjoy the ride, I suppose. Just a few announcements before we start. I'm going to be live streaming the TEC Hub tournament tomorrow. It's Churchill Max 7s, 3 versus 3s, and it should be a bit of fun because obviously the Churchill Mark 7 isn't exactly easy at penning itself. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams work around it. On top of this, we have also hit 2,000 members of the Discord, which is insane. So to mark the occasion, we are doing giveaways every day for 2 weeks. And these giveaways will be games, will be maybe some GE and packs and stuff like that. So if you want to get involved in that, please, go to the Discord, or if you are part of the Discord, go to the giveaways channel and all the information will be there. Each day, there'll be a different giveaway. That's basically how it will happen. So one will finish, another one will start, so on and so forth. So let's get into the questions. The first one is from Cameraman. Did you know that in my home state of Michigan we have a fair amount of Canadian change? Now, is this referring to toonies and loonies, or is this referring to, one-to-one Canadian to USD? Because if that's the case, I think it might be worth making a bit of money there, to be honest. The next one from Camoman. Are you a fan of the Kids in the Hall? Now, I have actually watched this when I came to Canada in the beginning, when I was 18. The second time I've been to Canada. Before that, I came here on like a rugby tour. One of the things that I said to my roommates, because they were 2 Canadians, they were second-year university students, they were going into medicine, I asked them, I need to know stuff about Canada, right? I don't know a lot about it. I know that you like ice hockey. I know that you have a lot of land and not a lot of people, but I need to know like maybe cultural elements. So they taught me about, the native influence and what happened in history. They taught me about how Canada was formed, and they also showed me a bunch of movies, TV shows, comedies, stuff like that. And The Kids in the Hall was actually one of them. And in response, I showed them a bunch of British stuff. So Black Books, Keep Him Up appearances, One Foot in the Grave, a lot of stuff which I personally enjoy. And The Kids in the Hall I thought was good. I would definitely not rate it in the, top echelon of shows that I enjoy. But I thought as a introduction to Canadian comedy, it was pretty good. I thought it was alright. If you like that style, I would definitely say, I think it's called like Third Period with Mr. Gormsby, or Eighth Period. That's a New Zealand show, which is a little bit more on the edge, I think is the way to put it, but it's a lot of fun. Do you think the whole, this is from Ewan, I believe, Ricky, or Ewan, I think it's Ewan though. Do you think the hole in the turret of the M1IP is a bug or not? It's a very important question for me. I don't know what hole you're referring to, but if it's a hole in the case of like what the Centurion has, where you can actually pen it with a 7.92 and kill the loader and stuff like that, then it's obviously a bug. If it's a place which just has slightly weaker armor, then it probably isn't. The reason why I try and stay away from doing historical videos about the rank 6 stuff, like I know a lot of other YouTubers have, like I just saw one from Scottish Koala talking about the Type 90. It would be great if he listed, his sources there, but unfortunately he didn't. The issue with these is all of the information on these are classified. And what that means is all we're doing is guessing at a point of the little information that we actually have. So when it comes to discussing whether armor is a bug or not on one of these rank 6 machines, all I can say is I don't have any facts on what their actual armor is in the first place. So I can't work out if it's a bug or not, or if it's supposed to be like that. You see the issue here. It's the reason why when you look at the War Thunder segments they do about like historical accuracies. Like they did one on the Type 90, they did one on the Challenger Mark II. And they went through, where they got their information from. And what you find is their information is not on the actual vehicles because they can't get to them. They're on stuff like the STC and the stuff like the Challenger Mark II or the Challenger exports. So even from there, we're not getting the actual information compared to what it should be. So bringing up, is it a bug, is it not a bug, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. And this is something I brought up like maybe 6 months ago at this point, with the M1 Abrams and stuff like that. People were asking me, oh, the turret armor on the Abrams is not very good, the Challenger's armor is awful, and, the Leopard's gun's really good, and the T-64A, how is that thing, how it is, when look at what it was in real life? And I said, okay, we'll put in a bug report, and then guess what they'll do? They'll just turn around and say, our sources say different, they won't give you the sources, and then they'll say, well, it's more up to interpretation because we don't have the sources. So what is the bug? You can't make a bug report on it. And this was the big thing that kind of annoyed me about Rank 6, to be honest, and still annoys me. So yeah, it might be a bug, it might not be a bug. I literally can't tell you. If, this is from Oricon, if one day you set up a fan mailbox and I sent you foods we eat in Hawaii, dried and candied, would you eat some? And would you do it on a video? One thing I would love to do in the future is set up a P.O. box, fan style thing. And, you guys can send me stuff and I'll definitely do videos on everything. Because, as you can see from, the Q&As and things I do, I don't mind just sitting down for a few hours while I have time and just talking to a screen and showing stuff. I kind of actually enjoy that. So, yeah, if you, when I set that up, if, the thing that I think I'm going to do right now is, if you hit me up on Discord, in the DMs, I can give you an address to send stuff to, and then I'll, do a video on them. So, you can send the stuff through that. Eventually I will set up stuff like a PO box and things like that, but right now, it's much better for me to focus on other things, than that. So, yeah, just hit me up on Discord, PM me, and, we'll get that sorted for you. Emerald Chess says, well done. What's your opinion on Rank 6 jets? Do you want them in the game? They're going to come in the game at some point. Depends on what form they come in. If we look at stuff like the A-10 Warthog, the Su-25, Harrier jump jets, things like this, I think even the Nat and stuff like that, yes, they're definitely coming to the game. Same eventually with supersonic stuff. It's such a wide range of things, jets, that Rank 6 could be. Which is the issue that we have with tanks as well. We have the issue where the period from the 50s to the 2000s is so vast in development. If you compare 50s, 60s vehicles with even 80s and 90s, completely different when it comes to how they work, when it comes to the systems that they have, and even the armaments, speed, maneuverability, all of these things are completely different. So when we talk about a Rank 6 jet, it's hard to quantify whether we're talking about 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and so on. Because the Rank 6 tanks we have right now are 80s and 90s, I think is the best way of putting it. So if we're looking at that time period, 80s and 90s jets, then they'll come to the game. My personal opinion on them, I already don't really enjoy Rank 5 jets. And the reason for this is because of the difference in, the meta, basically. There is one jet to rule them all, and that is the Canadair Sabre at 9.0. And at 8.0, it's the G91. If you look at the win rates of them, the Canadair Sabre right now is at 8.0, and the G91, the Canadair Sabre at 9.0 is 80%, and the G91 is at 83%, I think, win rate at 8.0. And when I look at Rank 6 jets, I don't see how we're going to have a scenario where this doesn't happen again. where you have just one jet dominating everything in air realistic. When it comes to ground, now that brings up its own set of issues, because the majority of jets, when we get and hit the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they are either really dedicated fighters with a multi-purpose role or multi-purpose. And what this means is we're going to get crazy technology and ridiculous amounts of damage coming from these jets. So they're going to have to make it really hard to get these things in ground realistic and also naval, and to try and balance them. We already see issues already with CAS in top tier battles, and the ways that they've tried to balance them is radar guided AA. But if we start adding in stuff like guided ground-to-air rockets, missiles, that we've already seen, if we see stuff like guided bombs at a much more functional level, if we see, just better technology, lock-on missiles and things like that, yeah, we're gonna have an interesting time, and we're gonna have a lot of people annoyed. So there's a lot of factors going into this, and none of them interest me. So, the way I see them is, do I want them in-game? Yes, because I want people to enjoy them. Are they going to come to the game? Yes. Do I know when? No. Will I play them? Probably not. Because I already don't play rank 5 jets. The only time I really play rank 5 stuff is in ground forces. And that's just because the disparity between jets and also the stock grind of the vehicles. Sky Ace 95, when are you going to do a face reveal? Hey, baby. Josh Matthews, when did you begin playing War Thunder, and what do you think will be in store for the game after update 1.81 releases? Congrats on 10k. Thank you, Josh. Let's actually have a look at something. There we go. Because I can never really remember when I actually started. So I started 10th of the 7th, 2013. So I've just passed 5 years in the game. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, 5 years. So I played this game for 5 years. You can see the amount of lines I've learned, which is insane. 55% win rate, which I think is pretty good. And then, so if you want to see my stats, you can literally just, go to this area, and it will let you, it will show you the stats. If you want to know anything about, what I do. Definitely enjoy AB fleet over RB right now. But anyway, let's get back to the questions. So what do I think will be in store? I think, I hope World War Mode is something that we'll see more of. We just got an update to World War Mode, and it's definitely something that I've personally been interested in. I think it's a really cool idea, if I'm honest. I really like World War Mode. I hope we see more of a push to enduring confrontation, which is also what we've seen. I'm sure we'll see more maps, especially stuff like Vietnam. We know that there's going to be some kind of air realistic Vietnam map. They've done a bunch of helicopter maps already. So, yep, we'll have a look towards that. I hope we see Italian tanks at some point, maybe by the end of the year. What I would like to see, so I don't think this will be what will happen, but what I would like to see in 2019 is a push towards tech trees, which are minor tech trees. So we've seen with helicopters the idea that you have to unlock rank 5 vehicles of a specific nation to get access to that specific nation's helicopters. I think that's a really cool idea. Now, imagine if we added minor tech trees into the game. So, as an example, a Romanian one, a Swedish one, a Commonwealth one you could add in. And these tech trees are tied to other nations' tech trees. So, for example, if you want to unlock the Romanian tech tree, then you have to get to rank 3 Germany. And if you get to rank 3 Germany, then that unlocks that minor tech tree and you can play it. Same with the Commonwealth one. Let's say you get to rank 4 Britain, right? And then you get access to playing the Commonwealth tech tree, which would be a smaller tech tree, but it would be more vehicles for you to play. And it would be a step away from all of the rank 6 stuff that we've seen added. So for me, I would love them to go in that direction. Whether they're going to or not, I don't think so, which is a shame. Yeah, but Italian tanks I'm sure will come soon. The other thing is stuff like the Bradley. I think we're going to see a lot more rank 6 stuff, and it's going to push to the point where we're going to have to get reduced RP and also Silver Lions costs for stuff, but I've got a feeling that'll come pretty soon anyway. I haven't heard anything about it, but just looking at how they've done it in the past, they normally have the updates, then wait about a month, and then start doing stuff like economy changes and BR changes, so we'll see. The main thing to look forward to, I think, though, is Italian tanks and the new different maps. Buendel, congrats on another milestone, well deserved, thank you. My question is a bit of an odd one. But as I have recently walked away from the game for various reasons, including Gaijin's treatment and responses towards the community, fair enough, I was wondering how you are feeling about the game, where you currently stand and how far away the tipping point is for you to jump ship. I will stay sub to you for the news and general hilarity of what the future holds for this game and company, though. Edit. Sorry to make this a long one, but I just thought of a more positive question. Do you think the RP and SL gain/multiplier for both premium and free-to-play counts needs a considerable boost quite soon, given the amount of content being added? Considering helicopters are now a thing, and ships are coming into open beta, soon it seems next to impossible to get a decent chunk of the vehicles in a reasonable amount of time, even with a premium account. I hope to return around the time ships enters open beta, and I really hope a lot of issues I have with the game are being worked on. Anyway, keep up the excellent work, and thanks for keeping me in the loop. Well, thank you for watching. When it comes to jumping ship from the game, there are practices that I see happen in other games which would make me walk away from War Thunder. The first one was that idea of these premium modifications, or improved modifications that you can buy. I personally am not okay with this because there is already barriers between experienced players and newer players, and these would be, modifications, got on a vehicle, aced crews, stuff like just general experience in the game. There's no point in putting another barrier there where we are just annihilating people, especially when it comes to stuff which can be purchased with gold. Another one is something that we see a lot of people talk about in World of Warcraft right now. World of Warcraft has an issue that has been brought up by the community that was a fix that Blizzard put in the game called this thing called personalized loot. And personalized loot is the idea that whatever you get out of the raid you keep, and whatever the other people get, they keep. So you could do a raid 20 times to get one specific piece, but you can't get it, because the RNG of the raid itself means that you don't get that piece. You're just unlucky. Now, what would happen in ye olde times is, at the end of the raid, you could either trade stuff with other people to get the item you wanted, or it would come down to a loot master of the raid, or of the guild, and they would decide who would get which piece of loot, depending on what they were doing. Now, if War Thunder went down this road, but did it with stuff like research and Silver Lions, so let's say just random multipliers after matches to see how well you did, then, yeah, I would not be okay with this at all, taking away all of the, responsibility of the individual. Also, if they decided to focus highly on areas of the game that, I'm not that interested in. So let's say they just completely forget about rank 1 to 5 and just focus on rank 6 stuff, don't add in any new trees, don't add in any new maps, and just did, 1990s to 2000 vehicles, and they're all 390 to 450,000 RP. Yeah, I'm not interested. Like, a lot of stuff in the new patch, right, the new update, I'm just not interested in. I just don't care. Like, anything that is 380 or 390,000 RP can just shove it. I don't have the time. I work. I do videos. I also have, a wife. I have, other obligations to do. I have family. I have friends. I can't do it. I know. I can't. I don't have the time. And as somebody who doesn't use gold to research anything, because I want to try and keep reviews as clean as possible through that regard, I think that would probably push me to leave. If there was just a bunch of content added I was not interested in. And, this update is pretty close, but it's not a tipping point for me because there's a bunch of maps that were added. There was still stuff like the BMP-2, the Char-25T, the TAM. I think these are all really fun, cool vehicles. The 2 aircraft. There's some stuff there for me to go after. So, it's okay. The tipping point would definitely be just if they decided, we're just going to pump rank 6 stuff and not change any of the RP costs. I feel personally they will lower RP costs and also SL. A lot of people see it from the other perspective, where they're going to, multiply or increase the multiplier every match for RP and SL. I don't think they'd do that, because in the past what they've done is they've just lowered requirements instead. So, yeah, I think it'll happen eventually. The issue is, when will it happen? And I think right now, maybe 2 weeks, a month. But we've had no actual confirmation of this. So this, as I said, this is just me guessing. Meme XDXD, where's the blah 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 million GE giveaway? Probably up your ass. A Post Zero, K5052, or Apache/Viper. I'm an Apache/Viper dude. I think, the thing is, when it comes to helicopters... Sorry, I'm going to be drinking through this. I feel like ass, so... Simple as. When it comes to helicopters, my general interest isn't that large. Just because, as I've talked about many times, you could probably class me as a 30s technology to 50s guy. So anything after that, I'm not as interested in, so I haven't done as much research in, and I only have, a certain amount of brain power. So, when it comes to helicopters, I pretty much just go on what looks the coolest. From a point of, wow, I'd love to see that. And the Apache/Viper, to me, look a lot cooler than the KA-50 and the 52. Unube104, does anyone know his real name? I'm sure it's out there. I would rather people just, call me by Boom, A lot of people who know me by Boom. So that's my real name. Ifla. That sleeveless black tabard thing you wear sometimes, why? Because it's warm in my house a lot, and also where I'm from, skin is not looked at as a bad thing. I don't know. I like it because it means that I can just relax, I'm free, I'm not, unkempt or anything like that. Like, one of the problems with a shirt like this is this shirt's really nice, right? It feels nice, it's comfy, until I start moving my arms around, and I realize how big my chest is. And with this, I then realize how big my shoulders is, and I start ripping stuff if I push too hard. With a shirt like that, I don't have to worry about how big my shoulders are. So yeah, that's why I like stuff like wife beaters and stuff like that. Hellbringer. Let's see. I just want to make sure the camera's not in the way here. No, it's okay. All right. Sup TEC. Congrats on the 10k, dude. Thank you. Although, as of writing this, you already hit 10,434 while we're recording this, and it's above 11k, so yeah. I need to get a bit more, I need to be a bit more efficient with these. As for my question, what do you think about the VT-12, the Verschuchtsträger-12, and it being added as a top-tier tank destroyer with two 120mm Rheinmetall smoothbore cannons? Do you think we'll see it in-game? If it is what I'm thinking it is, it's the little one, isn't it? Let's just have a look. I want to make sure. Cock. I didn't mean to do that. Nope. No talkie-talkie for you. Alright, let's just make sure. There we go. Yeah, it's this one. Yeah, I don't see why not. It's definitely, it's a weird machine, right? And also, because it has the 120mm Rheinmetalls, people are going to look at it as if it's, going to be a really cool and interesting machine. I see this on the level of stuff like the Ontos, right? So the Ontos was pretty much a failed idea. When you take a tank destroyer to a place that doesn't have a lot of tanks, and then you end up just using it to knock down, places, fair enough. It isn't, that very useful. I see that in like this way's predicament. I think it would be a great little scout. Obviously, with the power that it has, it would definitely be fun to use with the two 120s. I feel personally that it would never be a meta vehicle, but there are plenty of vehicles that are in the game that will never be meta, which are fun to use. And I feel like, for me personally, this would be one of those vehicles. So hopefully we see it in the game at some point. What's your biggest fear? From Blake Helweg. Fear is interesting. I tell you what I used to be absolutely scared of you wouldn't believe it, but Ronald McDonald. Here, I won't tell you what my biggest fear is, because what'll happen is people will take it and, basically taunt me with it, because it's very specific, so it's easier to do. So what I'll do is I'll tell you about Ronald McDonald and why he used to be my biggest fear. So as a child, I had this recurring dream. There's a lad who I went to school with called Matthew Okenye, one of the best business minds I've ever met, and I think will ever meet. His statistics crunching, insanity, amazing mind. And I used to have this dream where we would be in a facility together as scientists working on a secret project, and it was a zombie facility. Now, the zombies got out, as they do. Everyone was killed, and it was me and Matthew who were alive, and we decided we had to get out. It was the middle of the night in the dream, and so we run, and there's a car. We need to get to the car and run out. Now, Matthew gets caught on the other side of a fence, and he gets killed by the zombies. I get out of the fence, and am able to get into the car, but instead of trying to drive it, I just sit in the back seat, close my eyes, and just sit there for about 2 minutes. And this is 2 minutes dream time, of course. And then I look up, and I see the zombies all around the car, screen goes black, and I feel them eating me. Now, this is horrific, if you're a 5-6-year-old, and I had this dream for years. And what would happen at the end of the dream was a Ronald McDonald would appear, laughing, going clockwise, and spiraling out, and getting smaller as it got to a center point and he disappeared, and then I would wake up. Weird, isn't it? Crazy dream. Makes absolutely no sense. But from then on, for some reason, because of that, Ronald McDonald just scared shit out of me. Weird. But yeah, so there you go. Hopefully that was an interesting story. The Mad Cow Train. What do you think of planes like the XB-72 or other interesting American prototypes? Do you think of these types of aircraft could work well in War Thunder? Pretty much what works well in War Thunder is something that can sustain a decent climb rate, can hold energy, and has enough maneuverability at high speeds to be able to, gun down a target. That's pretty much, what you're looking for. So anything with a combination of these things can definitely work. So the XP-72, if you didn't know what it is, this is the Thunderbolt with the crazy engine in it. I think is the best way of putting it. I think that's what it is, right? So yeah, it has the Pratt & Whitney R360 Wasp Major 28 cylinder. The P47 we have in game is already really good, right? So I don't see why something like this would not also be very good. It may even be, the 6.3, 6.7, which we see the super props being at, because this is pretty much a super prop. So I think it would work really well. I'd love to see it in game. It was built, it was tested, it flew, it has a lot of flight data on it. Perfect addition, if you wanted to add it in. But yeah, if we're talking about would an aircraft work well in War Thunder, it needs a good climb rate to be able to climb at about 20 degrees, maybe 18 degrees for 10 minutes. It has to have decent amount of ammunition, it has to maneuver well at high speeds, then you got a winner, right? In rank 3 and rank 4. Lower than that, you can get away with not having the energy that I talked about before. Camo Man again. When do you think fire and forget air-to-ground, surface-to-air, surface-to-surface, and air-to-air missiles will be added to War Thunder? Have you ever watched the movie Pentagon Wars? If not, it's based on the book Pentagon Wars by Colonel James G. Burton. It's about the development of the Bradley IFV. I haven't watched it, but I'll definitely keep it on my radar, because I do need to learn more about some of these new American vehicles. So I'll take a mental note of that and watch that later. When it comes to the fire and forget stuff, I would be highly surprised if we don't see it next year. There's already been talk of surface-to-air missiles, and the obvious reason for this is because, well, if they add in stuff which is going to be fire and forget for aircraft, then we're going to be in a situation where everything on the ground is prey, no matter what it is. We're already kind of seeing it with helicopters, but helicopters will not have as much of an effect as jets doing exactly the same thing that helicopters can do right now. We already saw how good the FJ-4B was when it was doing that stuff. Imagine adding in a targeting system which is incredibly accurate. And so yeah, I feel like the ground boys are in for a rough time once stuff like this ever gets added. But as long as you add on a counter for it, such as the surface-to-air stuff, such as, missile carriers which fire at planes after locking on. I just don't want a scenario that we had when the... Oh, what's it called? When the ATGM launchers were added, so the IT-1, the Rakuten Jagdpanzer, even some of the later ones, the Sheridan, the Swingfire, what we didn't have in-game was a counter. There was no counter to them. This was before smoke was even in the game. This was before stabilizers. This was before all of these things. So the ATGM launchers would just hide somewhere and annihilate whatever came near them. It was absolutely insane. They were so good because there was no counter. And I think from that experience, Gaijin learned that if you're going to add in a new cool swanky mechanic, it might be an idea to add in a counter. Now with the FJ-4B, they changed that very rapidly to make sure to get rid of, the camera tracking. When it comes to the helicopters, I mean, the counters are already in game, so you don't have to worry about them. But with something like Fire and Forget, there's definitely going to need to be a counter on the ground. If we're talking about air-to-air stuff, I think that will be interesting, and the problem is the size of the maps and how effective they're going to be at range. That is something that has to be worked out, but I would be incredibly surprised if we don't see them in the next year. We already have all the building blocks now, especially with the Fritz, the FJ-4B, the way the helicopters use their ATGMs. Everything now is pretty much there. all they have to do is flick a switch. And we're also seeing, I believe it's the air-to-air missiles. They were added to, was it the Mi-35M? They're not in-game on live, but they were on the dev server. They were in the dev server files. They weren't on the dev server. So I'm guessing they're testing them in order to put them in. So we may even see them as soon as, in the next few updates. My guess would be at the latest at some point next year. Online Profile 1. Continue the Subnautica Let's Play. I need to do that, and I'm figuring out how to do it. My guess is I'm going to do it live streaming on the channel, but I do need to do that. Talk about UK vehicles. I have quite a lot, actually, over the years, and I will continue to do so. Whenever there's a new vehicle, whenever there's the history of anything, then I will do. If there's a specific UK vehicle you want me to talk about, though, you're going to need to be a bit more specific than just general UK stuff. But the Subnautica thing, I do need to play it again. I really, really enjoyed what I played of that, was having a great time, and I need to play it again. Moses Hinrichsen, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Congrats on 10k subscribers, thank you. I was wondering, since we have not seen any planes yet from update 1.81, what planes do you think they will add? Also, do you think they'll add the SS-11 AGMs to the French Corsair? So obviously, because of my timing here, the update 1.81's already come out. So we know what planes are here, and a lot of people see them as lackluster. I understand, right? The I-225, for me, is, the review will come out pretty soon, but it's a good super prop. It goes well against other super props. The issue it has is that it doesn't face other super props. It faces either jets or it faces planes that it dominates. So yeah, it's not in a great place. But when it comes to the French Corsair, yeah, I remember when I was reading about this one, the F4U7, they tested AGMs on it. And you're thinking, well, first of all, why? And second of all, if that's the case, what other propeller aircraft had, or at least tested, these AGMs? Now remember, the SS-11s, they're the same ones that you see on the AMX-13, and also I believe on the STR V81, even though it's got a name change. So these are keyboard-controlled AGMs in the game. So how would that work with the Corsair? Would you have to use the keyboard to control both sides? Which I suppose you could do, because that's what we have with the FJ4B, so why am I on about this and making it sound like it's a hard thing to do? We already have that in game, disregard everything I just said. But yeah, if it worked on and was tested, I don't see why it shouldn't get them. It's not going to break the meta. The F4U7 is not something that's taking over the skies, and also you could make it so it had a real detrimental performance on the aircraft itself. Mizinho, question, do you think War Thunder is going in a good way? Is it getting better or worse? Now, this is an interesting one, because obviously it's very hard just to say, yes, this is good, or no, it's going bad. The way I see it, right, is when I look at the content being added, the amount of it being ranked 6, I'm just personally not that interested in. So for me, that would be a bad way. Now, when I look at everything else, when I look at Enduring Confrontation, they've added in the fact that you can play realistic battles on the weekends, which is pretty cool. And obviously, Simulator Enduring Confrontation is really fun. The World War mode getting an update. We have more maps, which are pretty cool. The helicopters, I think that's also a bad thing. But once again, that's just not what I'm interested in. If we're talking about in general, yes, of course it's going in a good way. You've got the updated engine, you've got all these new vehicles. The only problem right now that a lot of people have is the modification grind of top-tier vehicles and the research grind of top-tier vehicles. So if we can fix those two issues in some way, come to a compromise, then nobody is complaining about anything else. Nobody is complaining about the stuff that I personally well, not complain about, but I just don't like as much. Like, nobody's saying, let's have more rank 3 vehicles compared to rank 6 ones, apart from me. So, from a general point, I think War Thunder's going in a good direction. There's just a few things that need to be ironed out when it comes to the grinding process that people are finding annoying right now. So, yeah. I do, in general, though, yes. When I look at the game modes, which is the longevity part of the game, I am very, very optimistic about the future. World War mode looks like something that I've wanted for a long time. Mixing stuff from... Oh, what's that game called? I can never remember that game, so I'll use a different one for an example. Company of Heroes 2, the Ardennes Assault, where they had the hexagonal battle and you could pretty much pick and choose where you fought and what you would get out of it, what resources you would use, what you would get back. I thought that was such a cool little thing, a little cool expansion. And to see that expanded out into War Thunder plus, other elements, bringing in the PvP idea of it, yes, I think that's so damn cool. So from gameplay, from the game mode point of view, it's looking good. There's still a lot in the works. I think ships is also good. Still think there's issues with rank 4, destroyers and light cruisers, and the fact that they won't be able to be on the same maps as tanks. That's always a bummer. But overall, it's looking very positive, right? There's a lot of content which is coming out pretty soon, a lot of stuff that's being worked on, and of course, with more content, more game modes, it's going to bring more people to the game. It's still the fourth most popular game on Steam, which is insane when you think about it. Packaged on easy. What car do you drive? What's your dream car? I drive what do I drive? I don't know. The thing is, right, when it comes to these questions, I'm still worried about should I, actually answer them or not. I have an old Aston Martin. I don't drive that a lot, though, and I got it very cheap. So I pretty much did it up myself when I'm in Canada. So, yeah, that's a car that I have, but you won't see me in it a lot because I don't use it a lot. I really like the car, though. When it comes to what I drive just like a four-door. It's nothing special. It gets me from A to B. My interest in cars is classic cars. 50s, 40s, 30s, maybe even 60s. Stag Triumphs are pretty cool if we're going later than that. So when I'm talking about a favorite car, it would be a car from the 20s. One of the old ones, no seat belts, wooden steering wheel, clutch which never wants to work, all the dials are wrong, stuff like that. And one of the things that my dad has, he has some, classic cars, and I have, some classic cars as well. And it's just been fun over the years working on them, because what it means is I've learnt a lot. On how engines work, whether it's the new style engines or the old style chain engines. If you've never seen a chain engine from a car, you need to see that. It is, the first time I saw it, I was like, what is going on here? Just imagine like a bike engine, but for a car. It's amazing to look at. But yeah, one of those old, probably some old Bentley from the 20s, I think would be nice. If we're talking about modern day, what would I want modern day? The thing is, I like practicality as well. So just getting like a sport something would be kind of useless. Probably, it's either going to be a Land Rover Discovery, so I can just chuck it about and not really worry too much about it and, go on adventures in it. Or it will be something just like a Lotus Elise. At some point, I will get a American muscle car though, like an old Ford Mustang, because I do want to know what it feels like to drive that, and also a Cadillac. I'll get one of those at one point as well. Master High Ground. What do you think of the current state of RRB? I've talked about it a few times. I think it's quite stale. The meta's pretty much defined and has been for a long time. Pretty obvious which vehicles are going to do well, which vehicles are not going to do well, and what it needs is a bit of revitalization. Now, with the new maps that we've had added, there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of difference. Air spawns, different amounts of bases. There's 4 of them now. Bridges, which is nice. More airfields, which is good. But what we need is more just mechanics. As I've said many times, paratroopers would be cool. Trains, supply lines, stuff which you can put on the ground, which will influence the battle after certain stages of it, instead of just vehicles appearing after 20 minutes. Right now, it's very fighter-dominated, unless you're at really specific BRs, such as like AD4s, B-29s, things like that, or BV-238s. And I think, personally, it would be much better if there was just more stuff to do. I do like the idea of adding in squadrons as well, and what I mean by that is you are an individual commander of a squadron, and you have 3 AI planes behind you, and you can either tell them to be offensive, defensive, or supportive. Very similar to a very simple system that we saw in Blazing Angels. Blazing Angels of all games back on the Xbox. And, so if it was defensive, they'd defend you against anybody attacking you. If it was offensive, they would actively go after people. If it was supportive, they would try and go after stuff like ground targets and things like that. So it would be nice if, they added in that, because it would make it feel like an actual battle. Instead of you being the war, it would be you participating in a war. And I know a lot of people like to be the hero of everything, and I understand that. But for me, I would like to feel like I'm part of something that's bigger than just, 10 planes on 10 planes. That's why I like World War mode, Enduring Confrontation, stuff like that. It feels like I'm part of a bigger picture instead of being the picture. And I personally just like that. But right now, yeah, it definitely needs a shake-up. And I don't think you do that by adding in more vehicles. I don't think you do that by adding in helicopters. I think the only way you can do that is just through objectives and being able to do different things. So this is Kook799. Personally, I'm quite proud to be part of this community and hope it grows. Congrats. Well, thank you. And I think this community is great. There's always a lot of poignant points, and also what is nice is disagreement is not met with anger. Disagreement is actually met with discussion, which is incredibly surprising, especially in gaming communities, so I'm very happy about that. My question is, when and how did you find War Thunder? Also, how many hours do you think you put into the game? How did I find War Thunder? I watched a video from Jingles about World of Tanks. No, that's not right. I played World of Tanks for a little bit, and I'll never tell you my name in it, so you can never look at my awful statistics. And I was at university, and I needed something to do when I wasn't doing work, which was very little amounts of time. So I needed a game which I'd be interested in, and also it wouldn't take a long time. So that is where World of Tanks came in. 10 minutes per battle, World War II, which was cool. British tanks, I'm really into that. That's my jam, baby. And with that said, I got into it. So I started watching YouTubers. I started watching Safosh, Circumflexes. I didn't really like Quickie Baby's stuff, just because, I don't know, his voice, it's just not for me. And that is just, it is how it is, I'm sure nowadays if I went back and watched stuff, it would be fine, but then it was kind of like I just want to listen to not that voice. I don't know why. Maybe it was a trigger for me. And then Jingles. And Jingles started doing videos on War Thunder. And I was like, I've seen adverts for this. online. And it's a more realistic game. It looks nicer. It has aircraft in it. Yeah, let's give it a go. So that's what I did. And I played a lot of it. This was back with the system where it was levels. You had 20 levels per nation and, all of this crazy stuff. Completely different system back in the day. Absolutely crazy. And, I played it back then. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And I stuck with it over World of Tanks. Because at that time, and even today, I don't have time to play 2 games like that. I pretty much only have time for one. So I stick with War Thunder. I like the realistic element. I like the fact that there was more going on in the battle instead of just, tank versus tank, because I played arcade back then. So there were ships all over the place. There was AI all over the place. There was other AI aircraft. There was, aircraft from the enemy. There was a lot of stuff going on the screen. It was cool, and it still is really cool when I go back and play arcade. It feels like there's just stuff everywhere. And there is. And, so that's how I got into it, and I've kind of just stuck ever since. And how many hours? I've easily put about 6,000. On my Steam account, which I only started doing like 3.5 years ago, I have 4,500 hours. And so I played on the launcher before that. So I'd say maybe 6,000, 7,000 would be a guess. Obviously, that's not always in battles as well, so yeah. Tommy Fred, I think it will be 100k by the end of next year. Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't think so. I don't know. The thing is with my content, I don't think it appeals to a massive community. Like, I know a lot of people are interested in the discussion side of things, but it's never going to be as much as highlight reels and, stuff like that. And you can just see that through the numbers of other people as well. So I'm never going to be the snappy, like, hey guys, how you doing? Let's go! Yeah, look at this highlight here. Number 1! And yeah, that ain't me. So, yeah. We'll have to see. So, Matthias Gaming. Hello again. I have a few questions. Are you going to upload 4K videos? Probably not. I don't need to. The 1080p 60 right now is completely fine. And since the 4K would just be a drain on resources and hard drive space, and also upload, I don't really see the point. Maybe I'll try it once, give it a go, see what it's like, but overall, nah. When will the reviews of the wired/unknown vehicles come out? Over time, I think is the best way to put that. When it comes to content creation, I wonder, let's see. Whoops. So this is just a few things. Let's see if I can show it on the screen. I do. Hello. Right, has that worked? I hope it's worked. Anyway, so these are just a few ideas, and this was just literally what I wrote today. So we have this one, which is Operation Hammer. This is Operation Icarus, Operation Wilfred. This is double-sided, by the way, all of them. And then this is for information about the Leopard. Also, energy fighting and how it should be structured. Like, these are just all ideas that are kind of, all over the place. And I have, like, a whole book of these. So, yeah, enjoy that. Let's go back to this. So, yeah, I have a whole notepad of ideas that I could do. And I've been slowly but surely working through them, and I will continue to. So, yeah, they'll come out when they come out, I think is the best way of putting it. Will we ever see you play Command & Conquer Generals? Can be played on Origins. I will play Command & Conquer Generals. The issue is when I get time. What I've found is I just don't have time. Like, you already know how much content I put out already. I would have to decrease something to increase something else. So if I can do that, then I'll do that. If I can't, I can't. Are you going to make specific guides? How to aim the ATGM or kill a specific tank? I mean, I do that sometimes, right? Like, show you how a mechanic works. I did that with scouting, radar-guided AA, AGMs. So if the ability arises, yeah, sure. Unless there's a massive outcry for a specific thing, then probably not, though. I think general reviews are better. Will we be seeing collaborations with you and Gaijin, apart from the content creator packages? I would like to do that. I would like to actually get some of them on the War Thunder Talk series. You know, just have a chat with them. It doesn't even have to be about War Thunder. It can just be about philosophy. Something like that if they wanted to do that. But overall, it's quite hard to, to get them to do stuff like that. Because I don't think it's an issue where they're scared. I just think it's an issue where time is a thing. And if you take 2 hours out of your day, that's quite a long chunk of time. Most people don't want to do that. What are your current thoughts on the common complaint about World War II tanks fighting Cold War era tanks? I am fine with the game being balanced around how good a vehicle is instead of historical accuracy. Because if we go down the historical accuracy route, then we're going to have to talk about balancing by numbers, which is something I brought up in the past, and also balancing by efficiency, meaning how about you spawn without an engine or without a gun? It's either one or the other. So if we already have historical events in the festive events, and sometimes on the weekends, I think it's fine having them there. I don't think we need it for general play. I think general play should be focused around balancing each side instead of historical stuff. What is your stance on supersonic aircraft and the possible introduction into War Thunder, guided missiles and so on? I've already answered this, but I'll do it short here, just to be fair. They're going to come to War Thunder eventually. Am I interested in them? No. That's basically it. Do you think there should only be added a fuse delay to ATGM so you cannot shotgun them since it's unrealistic? If it's unrealistic, yes. It should be taken out. I understand what you're getting at here, and it is unrealistic, therefore get rid of it. Will you do artillery only? What does that mean? Like, play a match with only using artillery? I mean, a lot of the time I do that in my scout tanks anyway. I just scout as well. If you mean like, use stuff like SU-152, 122, that would be kind of fun. I haven't thought about that before. Yeah, maybe. I might do a few videos on that. Thanks for the questions, though. Thanks, Matthias, as well. You've been around for a long time, and it's been really nice answering all your stuff. The Italian boy asks, did Guy Jubles completely leave the idea of removing the 105 Tiger and Panther 2? Do you have any new info? No, this is Leonardo Poma, by the way. No, they haven't, and it's just been reaffirmed by, SMIN 1080p. So they are going to get rid of them. They're just making sure that they have the replacements lined up when they take them out. Tubo, Panderson, good old Tubo. Why you have Q&A when you always tell us use Google, Because Google does not have my thoughts and opinions. Rainy Evix Disa, I hope I said that right. Will you ever do a house tour? I bet your house looks pretty dank. It looks like a house, apart from the dungeon, so maybe one day. Wintersol, how interested would you be in a custom battle event, say like a speedboat race? That would be ace. If you don't know who Wintersol is, he's a trusted occupant on the Discord, and he's also an amazing map maker. He's the guy behind Jenga, he's also the guy behind some other custom battle ideas, and I'm hoping that in the future he makes some other great stuff. Oh, also, he did a reincarnation of the football stuff. I'm really hoping that you could make like a speedboat race thing, or just races in general. The thing which is good about races in War Thunder and as community events is it's easy to see who wins, so you can do giveaways and stuff like that to be able to do it. Aha! How did you discover War Thunder, and why did you decide to name yourself European Canadian? I discovered War Thunder, like I said before, through the Mighty Jingles, and through World of Tanks, which is kind of funny. And why did you decide to name yourself European Canadian? I wanted to call myself the British Canadian, but that name was taken. So I named myself the European Canadian because I'm a British guy living in Canada. So there's the European side, there's the Canadian side. I know my accent is a little bit all over the place now, but before, if you go back to like me older videos from, 4 years ago, I sound a lot more British, I think is the best way of putting it. Vintersol. Millions of hours could only be I don't know what that means. Disky? You gotta help me out here, Vin. I have no idea what that means. Meow, or M3ow. Well deserved. I really like your content and the dedication you show to your subscribers. Thank you. That's very kind. The other guy. First of all, I want to congratulate you on the 10k subscribers. Thank you. I have no doubt that you will get to 20k in no time. Now some questions. Here we go. Always the fun part with the questions. Oh boy. Here we go. 10k questions for a 10k. Imagine when you get to 100. Oh god, 100 questions just from a single person. Oh, that'll be a long video. What would you think about the skink being added to the game? I think it should. It was built, it was tested. The only question is, do you put it in the American or the British tree? I think you put it in the British tree. And I understand like the historical argument, but at this point, when you've got the Grant in the British tree, the Ram in the American tree, and the Grant also in the American tree, then you got the Sherman 2 in the British tree. Like the cross, when it comes to the laws, well not laws, but when it comes to the decisions made by Gaijin of where to put what vehicle, it's a little bit all over the place, I think is the best way of putting it. And kind of the first point of call is necessity, or where they believe, the necessity lies for the vehicle. So for me, I would put it in the British tree, because I see that huge-ass gap between 4.7 and 7.7 AA where the skink would fit. So I'd stick it in the British tree for that reason. What would you think about the IO being added to the game? I mean, you can add it, but I just don't... First of all, it doesn't really fit the game. It would be useless on larger maps, and on smaller maps it would get stuck everywhere. The only thing that would be interesting from it is that people would shoot it a lot and it wouldn't die because it would have tortoise syndrome where it would take you ages to kill everybody inside. Overall, what I see from the machine is a big hunk of junk. I know a lot of people want it because it would be a cool Japanese super heavy tank, but when it comes to actual use, I don't see it being useful at all. I just see it being more of a burden than anything else. I think it'll be really cool for like a week or two, but it's never going to be meta-defining. It's, what it does is going to be really, what's the word? It's going to be a novelty, I think is the best way of putting it, which is why a gift vehicle would be the best idea for it. We'll have to see, though, what happens with it. I personally think that it won't be added to the game, just because of the amount of information that's missing for it. But, I mean, we have the whole reproduction, so who knows? Do you have any, what would you think about more artillery pieces and self-propelled rocket launchers being added to the game? Well, now that they have made rockets more realistic, I'm completely fine with them. The issue with stuff like the Calliope and also the... I can't remember what it's called, but the one after it, the Pershing with all the rockets on it, and also even the Cromwell RP3. It was a big issue because the rockets were one-shotting everything. now, we don't have that as the case, and they're actually more realistic. You know, the HVARs and the AP rockets, the Hydras, I'd be fine with them being added to the game. I think it would be kind of cool, actually. Even like a truck with a land mattress following around the back. Can you imagine something like that? Maybe you could double whammy it. Maybe you could get a Deacon. So if you don't know what a Deacon is, it's basically like a flatbed truck made by the British, which has like, I believe it's a 57 on the back. I'll just check for you, actually, because I don't want to screw it up, right? Deacon, World War II. Oh, I've done it again. Nope. Be quiet, old man. Nobody wants to hear your ramblings. Right, here we go. Right, this is where we're at. Right, the Deacon. Yeah, this thing. Pretty much a flatbed truck. And it has the 57, so the 6 pounder on it. You just make this, and then you also make it tow around a land mattress. If you don't know what a land mattress is, land mattress. There we go. It's this thing. It's literally designed to just flatten an area. Ooh, this is cool. What's this, Games Quest? I'm going to have a look at these guys. This looks really nice. But yeah, it's literally just designed to flatten an area, so yeah, why not add that stuff? It does add a bit more RNG to the game, but because they made the rockets models more realistic and not just one-shot stuff, I'm completely fine with it. Artillery pieces, yeah, sure. Let's get the bishop in here. Let's get the priest in here. Let's get all of the weird and wacky rank 6 massive donking machines we have. I mean, we have the SU-122, the 152. We have the 105 Sherman. We now have the Centurion Avery. Let's get stuff like the Churchill Avery in here. Let's get all the ridiculous massive donk machines like the Cromwell with the, it's either the 90 or the 105 on it. Let's go. Let's do these crazy things. Screw it. You've opened the door. Let's blast it open now. Do you have any type of vehicle that you would like to see in game? Yes, I would like to see the Whitworth Whitley. The Whitworth Whitley is a pretty awful machine. I'll show you it. It's a pencil British bomber from the 30s. It was pretty much decommissioned when stuff like the Halifax, the Manchester, the Lancaster, even stuff like the Sterling came out. But it has so many weird and wonderful war stories behind it. Just from a personal point of view, I would love to have it in game just so I can show it in the background while I'm talking for hours about the history of the machine. I think that would be really fun. There is obviously a ton of other ones, but just for time, I just want to highlight that one. What would you think about an international tech tree? I know you would prefer factions tree like OTAN and Warsaw Pact or minor nations trees. The way I've thought about it in the past is you could do it two ways. So either 2 international tech trees, 1 allied, 1 axis. Now that we've gone into rank 6 though, and rank 5, much later than the allied and axis debate, now we're going to have to do individual tech trees. So that would be the best way of doing it. If this means just 1 large tech tree which encompasses a bunch of minor nations, yeah, let's do it. I mean, they've already been pushing mixed battles a lot in realistic. Now, I don't particularly like mixed battles, but if we're going to have nations like France and Japan and probably Italy, once, people have died off the hype when the ground vehicles come out, what we're going to have to see is, because right now if you play France, you pretty much, you get put on any side you want, right? You just get stuck on that side, and it doesn't matter if it's on the German side, the American side, the British side, the Soviet side. It's just wherever you fit. And I feel like if we added in an international tech tree, that would be the same. And I'd be fine with that. Because at the end of the day, it would just be at a point where you would just be like the French are right now. So we already have those systems in place, so why not just use them? What vehicle, tank, airplane, would you like to be added to the game? So, Whitworth Whitley and tank. This is an interesting one. The Covenanter would be pretty cool. What would you think about the 1K17 Zati being added to the game? Well, first of all, I'll have to have a look what it is, because I have no idea what it is. So, let's start off with that. What is this? Have we gone full Command and Conquer mode? Self-propelled laser vehicle. Battery of laser projectors mounted in a turret. It was ordered to disable the optical electronic equipment of enemy missiles, ground and aerial vehicles. So this would be a fuck my shit up fam thing, right? I think, oh, you're not allowed to see anymore. Well, what is this thing? Oh, I've broken my light. There we go. One thing that also with my light, if I hit the desk too hard, it's one of those ones where it's got a loose wire in it, so you just have to shake it a little bit and it'll work again. So yeah, don't worry too much about that. But anyway, yeah, I don't think this will ever get added, but it would be kind of funny if one side had a vehicle which would just shut down the optics of the other. Like, it would be kind of cool if a scout could do that or something, like shut down the radar of the enemy. I'd be down for that. I think that would be kind of funny. From a realistic point of view, though, yeah, probably not a bad idea. And then we have the Kalinin K7. I'm worried about seeing what this is. Oh my god. It's a Big Bertha, is what it is. It was a destroyed in crash. Why am I not surprised? Let's see. It's got twin booms, underwing pods, landing gear, machine gun turrets. God, this thing has everything. What was it even designed to do? It has 7 engines on it? I mean, okay, sure, why not? I have no idea what it would do, though. Unless it's supposed to be a bomber. I mean, sure. Why not? Which game mechanic would you like to be added to the game? There was one which was brought up a few weeks ago, which I thought was really cool. And I'll just make sure. Is everything working? Yeah. The idea for scouts, also light tanks, which have the scouting ability, to be able to replenish crew of other vehicles. I also think this could be expanded so they can help, or so they can repair vehicles which don't have parts. I think this would be really cool, and it would also add a new dynamic to the game. One thing I really like about light tanks is the versatility that they have, and if more versatility is added to them, then I'll be down for that. Something we do have to do, though, is we have to figure out a mechanic for heavy tanks which makes them unique compared to everything else. Because medium tanks, obviously they're the meta, MBTs, they have artillery, the light tanks have scouting, and then the abilities with aircraft, low SP costs and stuff like that. So heavy tanks need something. They need something, to make them be apart from everything else. And I don't really know what that would be yet. It's definitely a video idea that I've been thinking about, though. I think you could probably maybe better repairs, or you need to add something to, you need to add something to heavy tanks to make them to give them their own little flair, I think is the best way of putting it. I also think adding in UAV stuff and sonar stuff will be interesting, especially for ships. I'm sure we'll get that at some point. Radar in general as well, not just radar guided AA, but actual radar. Like, we have a bunch of machines, the P-61, air radar would be pretty cool, being able to spot vehicles at longer distances if you have radar installed. So, like on the Do-217s, the night fighters, and the P-61 and vehicles like that, yeah, doing something like that, increasing or boosting their distances that they can see, and the effect would be that you are more vulnerable to be seen as well. So it's kind of a catch-22. Do you want to be able to search for the enemies and the enemies to see you, or do you want to keep quiet and, go that way? What are your thoughts about hidden vehicles that were in the available for investigation, but now only remain for those who did investigate them back then? I'm fine with it. I know a lot of people who are new to the game are going to be annoyed about it, but it seems like over this last year they've brought back a lot of vehicles that were, gift vehicles back in the day. So for me personally, I think it's nice that they stay unique. There are certain things that should be buried in a pit, such as the Sturmvogel and the KV-220, but they brought them back on the marketplace, so yeah. I think for the majority of the time, bringing them back and putting them on the marketplace is okay, or bringing them back for events is okay, but there are specific vehicles I never want to see again, and that would be stuff like the KV-220, because I know it's really good. Like, I've done really well in it. You can deal with it effectively, especially if you're up-tiered, but it's still really damn good for what it is, and I don't want to see any more vehicles like that. If they want to do them through Warbond Shop, or do them through the marketplace, I think both are valid options, and it would mean that if you really wanted them, you'd have to work hard to get them, which is exactly what we had to do back in the day. So I think that's fine, fine to do like that. Jason Meehan, good luck in the future. I enjoy your videos. Thank you, bud. That's very kind. Nick Tune 1219. Does your beard help you secretly do better in War Thunder? What is under that magical beard of yours? A very, very young face, if you were to be surprised. There's a few pictures of me circulating from 2 to 3 years ago when I didn't have a beard. And you wouldn't think I was the age that I was, because I look like I'm 15, 16. So the beard helps with maturity, I think, is the best way of putting it. A lot of politicians say that mustaches and beards are bad things because they give an air of suspicion. I also think they give an air of elderliness or maturity, especially when you have a young face. So for me, my beard gives me a sense of maturity, which helps a lot and makes people think I'm a hell of a lot older than I actually am. Is Izot? Do you want some cheesecake? Yes, always. Would actually really like some profiteroles right now, though. Haven't had them in a long time, and they're really nice. What was the most significant change in War Thunder until now, including 1.81? Addition of ground vehicles. Has to be. This was by Yoshi Egg 95, by the way. Yeah, addition of ground vehicles. Can you imagine if War Thunder was literally just still aircraft? The game changer was ground vehicles. It brought in a ton of new people. It brought in a lot of new faces. It brought in a new community. And then from there, some more minor significant ones. You could say, expanding to Xbox, PS4, expanding into ships, expanding into helicopters. But the most significant is definitely the addition of ground vehicles. Should every nation get guided missiles from Harry Barber? Yes, of course. Yeah, of course it should. When you add in a new mechanic, I think that it has to be balanced across the nations, especially nations that fight each other. One thing we're seeing right now with helicopters is there is obviously an issue with them only being on one side of the challenge. Right now, at high tiers, we're seeing a lot of matches where it's like US versus Soviets, because the Germans didn't really get anything that was new, top tier. I mean, they got the TAM, but when you compare that to the M1IP and the TADB, there's no competition. So all of the players who want the new stuff are playing the Soviets or the Americans. You also play them to get the helicopters. So because of this, you're getting to a point where a lot of people are playing these nations, but once stuff calms down and people start playing stuff like Britain, Germany, and other nations again, guess what's going to happen? Helicopters. And whether this is going to be beneficial for the American and Soviet side, or it's going to be a detriment, the main thing you can definitely say is now you have a scenario where certain nations have access to weapons which others don't, just like the FJ-4B was. So I think if you're going to add in a new mechanic, it's a good idea to first of all add it in a minor way, kind of like the FJ-4B, and then expand it to everything at once. Kind of like what they're doing with ships, where they want to get all the trees out before, or at least all the major trees before they hit OBT. Because otherwise, you end up in a situation where certain nations are just way more advanced than others. And it's just a race for who has the best mechanic or who has the best technology. That's not a good idea. It's a really, really bad idea. Because it promotes pretty bad gameplay. And there's no balance to it. It's just whoever catches the dragon first. Kectonium. Do you have any job other than making YouTube vids? Would you tell us about it? I'm not really allowed to go into what I do. Just because of the nature of my work and also NDAs and things like that. So what I'll say is I work in the field of scientific research. That is the stock answer, and that is the answer that I will continue to give. Mateo, my boyo. Hi, congratulations for the 10k subscribers. I have a question. Well, thank you first. You think it's possible to change BR of the FJ-4B from 9.0 to 8.0 in realistic RB? Because at 9.0 versus other pure fighters, it's quite hard to do something, while at 8.0, I think it's balanced versus others, G91, and have time to do fighter bomber roll. PS, maybe keeping it at 9.0 for ground realistic and simulator. This is a problem I think War Thunder has, and has had for a long time. The fact that in air battles, a machine has to have the same BR as it does in ground battles. So in air realistic battles, a jet of 8.0 has to also be a jet of 8.0 in ground realistic battles as well. I think the FJ-4B would be a great example, just like stuff like the P-47, P-51, anything which has a lot of ordnance, basically, which can also fight after it uses said ordnance, are all great examples of machines that should be higher BR in ground realistic compared to air realistic. Because if we just look at air realistic, yes, the FJ-4B is an 8.0, just because it's not great at 9.0, and, well, actually, no. I mean, you could even make the case it is a 9.0 because there's a lot of 9.0 vehicles that are redundant already, so why not add it to the pile? But if you want it to be competitive, yes, 8.0 would be where you put it, but if you put it in 8.0 and ground realistic, then obviously we're going to have a few issues. So I think the best thing to do would be to split up the ground and air BRs and ship BRs of these machines. So, it makes more sense. So, yeah, I would put the FJ-4B at 8.0 in air realistic and then at 9.0 in ground realistic. If that was a thing I could do, I'd definitely do that. Maybe one more 1.81 vehicle pack giveaway. We already gave away 2. Go on, but Victor, look, we give away so much stuff, right? Whether it comes to games, whether it comes to tournament prizes, whether it comes to giveaways in general, whether it comes to War Thunder community, whether it even comes to time, setting up custom battles for you guys, setting up events, all of this stuff takes a lot of time and also effort and, yes, money. So what might be an idea is taking what we've done, right, with the giveaways, with the, with the tournaments and stuff, and try and get other people to do it too. There are plenty of other YouTubers with large communities which would benefit from these custom ideas from also the ideas of tournaments, from all of this stuff. So please try and get these guys to do their own stuff. Because maybe they can give away a 1.81 vehicle pack. So we can have some from our end, some from their end. Everybody's giving stuff away. It feels like a great community thing. But if everything is on the team's head at the TEC hub, then it's a good thing, because it means that, we get to control what we give away. But at the same time, it means everything falls on us. And then when we disappear, if it ever does come to the point where we have to disappear, whether we get busy, whether, we just move on from the game, then who's going to pick up the slack? There's nobody there. So it's much better to try and spread the love, if you get what I mean. Xtor9, one of the most popular talkers on the TEC hub, I think, if we look at the Me6 bots, which is great. Chef, would you stay as a chef or go back in time and turn into a caveman again? If it was up to me, I would be a caveman. The issue is, I need to look semi-respectable for work. So, it is chef right now. Chef Canadian. Visky 252. And I guess something positive to say. Who 10k? Nice. Now get back to work. And yes, you, the dear viewer, don't forget to buy official TEC in the merch store. Exactly. If you didn't know, thank you, Visky. In all of the videos that we do, we have links to the US and the EU Teespring store for the TEC. You can get the Operation Summer stuff. You can also get the official this one, the logo merchandise as well on the EU store. We'll be updating it soon with new designs. One of the designs is going to be for Remembrance Day. We're going to be doing a charity event and also another design as well. Soviet Nep Nep. But really, mate, congrats on 10,000 subscribers. Thank you, Visky. That's very kind of you. Soviet Nep Nep, what's your opinion on Tank AV? I enjoy it. I think it's really fun. The issue I have is I find it a bit mind-numbing. That's not because it's not tactical or anything, but a lot of the stuff I enjoy doing in tanks is stuff like scouting, flanking, stuff that I have to do kind of incognito. And if I have a big stamp on my head in the form of a target, then people are going to know exactly where I am all the time, so that ain't going to work. I'm much more... When it comes to tank, I like the idea of, this stealthy kind of way to work, and you just can't do that in AB. So, generally, yeah, I enjoy it. But overall, it doesn't properly fit my playstyle. Visky252 again. How much GE can an Eagle chuck if an Eagle could chuck GE? 50. Visky again, what can I ask you? Do you think that if Gaijin gave planes historical armor models, the community would be mad or happy about it? I know I would personally be happy about it. I think the general community would be annoyed. And the reason for this is because it would take a hell of a lot of hits to down something in a modern way, or a realistic way. A lot of control surfaces could work pretty well without being damaged. So if they got rid of the being able for your tail just to fall off and made it completely realistic like we see other games, yeah, I think more people would be annoyed because they would have to pump a hell of a lot more shots into stuff to kill things. So for me, I would like that. For others, I don't think so. Super Waffle 1776. If you could create one major patch in War Thunder and have the ability to change game modes, remove/add vehicles, etc., what would you do? Sign note, I'd love your content. Thank you, that's very kind of you. I would institute Enduring Confrontation to be the aerialistic mode. I know a lot of people won't be happy with that, but I think it's the way to go with the content and the way forward. When it comes to change game modes, as I said, add paratroopers, add trains, add supply lines, add just more AIs going on, add sieges, add escalations, add invasions, add all of these weird and wonderful things that we see in other games. as events that can happen on the battlefield. When it comes to ground forces, I don't think that much needs to be changed. Maybe small events. I remember when they used to do in random battles, like a point would just appear on the map that you have to capture, like a supply drop. I think if they did that in a much more realistic way, so something flies in with a supply drop and maybe you can shoot the plane down before it comes in, and also, you know, if you capture it, maybe one team doesn't lose points, but you gain points, you know, stuff like that. I think that would be cool. But overall, I wouldn't remove any vehicles. Apart from the Hurry production, the R2Y2, the Tiger 105, and the Panther 2, everything else can stay. I would just take out those. And no, it's not because I hate Germans or Japanese. I just don't like vehicles which are massively unrealistic, and those are pretty much the four. When it comes to adding them, I would like to see more World War II vehicles, maybe even World War I for planes. I think it would be very fun, especially from a cinematic point of view. Dollaroo68. Hey mate, well done. You deserve all the praise you get, and more. Question. If I order, say, a t-shirt, how much would it cost to get to Perth, Western Australia? Do I pay, or is it included in the price? So, Dollaroo, if you buy a shirt on the store, when you click on it and go through the transaction, once you put in your address, it will then tell you how much it's going to cost to send. So the cost to ship is not included in the price of the shirts. And we've made the shirts literally as cheap as possible, so whoever wants to bag them up can get them. You know, simple as that. So yeah, they're as cheap as they can be. The profit margins we're making on them are incredibly small. is the best way of putting it. Thomas Smith. Since we are getting the 120 Leo 1 at 9.0, should the A1A1 be 8.7, since it has a slightly worse gun? This is just my own thoughts, but it should not have been a 9.0. They should have tried 8.7 first. The Leopard 120 is not a 9.0, it's a 9.3. That's the best way I can characterize it. The fact that they put it at 9.0 is wrong, and I understand why they've done it, because they don't want to do a rank 5 premium vehicle at 9.3, but it is a 9.3, and I think eventually, once we get higher end tanks added in, it'll go up, because it is a 9.3. All circumstances, you know, looking at it, it's a 9.3. The A1A1 is fine at 9.0 when it's fully upgraded. The issue is if you don't have it fully upgraded. So I would actually emphasize BR manipulation idea. So when you don't have the APFS DS and you don't have some of the engine upgrades, it would be at 8.7, and then once you get those, it would be fine at 9.0. That's the problem with a lot of these machines. They have one key upgrade, whether it's an ammunition slot, whether it's engine, whether it's anything like that, and then at their BR, they are useful. The problem is, if you don't have those modifications, it feels absolutely worthless. I mean, look at stuff like the Challenger for that. The Challenger is exactly like that, and a lot of machines in-game are like that. So I would personally like a system involved where your BR changes depending on what modifications you have installed. I think that would be a much better way of doing it than what we have right now. Ziyu Ye, I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. It might be Zayu, actually. Additional BR change in 1.81. Yeah, I hope so. I hope, as I said, normally about a month and a half after a patch, they start screwing with the economy and the BR stuff, so I'm guessing that's when that'll happen. Well, my unoriginal username, very original. Hey TSC, where were you born, the UK or Canada? I was born in a place called Beverley in the East Riding of Yorkshire in the UK, so in England. It's a lovely place. I've actually, on the back wall there, it's quite hard to see. Let's see. Is my head in the way? Yeah, it is. Right. So you see, this one? This picture is called the thinking tree. And, well, it is for me. And it's a tree I used to go to as a little lad on the Westwood. And the Westwood is the area just outside of Beverly. There's a race course there. It's just like Greenland, right? Or, grassland. There's cows. There's an old windmill. There's a golf course. There's all this stuff. And we used to go there and we used to have a potter about and we used to think of the thinking tree. I was born in Westwood Hospital, in Beverly, so, yeah, that might date me a few years, because I think it's been knocked down now, or at least moved, compared to where it was before. APHE-chan, do you think German ground forces high tier is getting a little too much focus compared to other nations lately? I don't think so. I mean, now, if we look at after update 1.81, it's pretty much balanced between the three major nations, Germany, US, and the Soviets. They all have a good main battle tank, they all have a good backup battle tank, and they all have good top-tier AA. The only difference now is helicopters, which Germany doesn't have. And the other issues are for all the other nations. So Britain, France, Italy, and Japan have the problems of not having enough focus on them. So hopefully at some point that'll happen. Nito Massacre, nice to see you, bud. When is the Doki Doki Literature Club Let's Play? It will be soon. That's all I can say. It has been a long time coming, but it will do. Mab, how about branching your content? Keep War Thunder mandatory, but on other days play different games, review them, make content on them, World of Warships, anime, etc. What more content is liable to come in the near future and the late future in War Thunder? I want to do more history stuff. That's pretty much my passion. So, talking about books that I've read, going through the stories, the speeches of great men and women. I think that would be interesting to do and fun to do, so I'll do that in the future. Another thing is I do want to play more games. I do play more games, you just don't see them. And I think the best way to do that and to show them is through streaming. So I think soon we'll start streaming stuff. It's really hard, right? It's really hard getting the balance. Because I've got work, I've got this, I've got family, I've got friends, and then on top of that, I've got to somehow be able to interact a lot with the community, plus stream, plus do all the tournaments, plus do all the giveaways, plus we're trying to get the Steam stuff sorted out, we're trying to do custom battles, we're trying to do all this stuff, and there's a lot of stuff on my head, I think is the best way of putting it. So I'm trying my best to delegate stuff to other people. And once that is out the way, once stuff gets delegated, then I can focus on things like that. And if that doesn't happen, then they won't be focused on. Armando Aridondo, you've done a great service being a provider of new tips, speculation, and creator of deep-fried memes. Keep going strong and keep treading. Thank you, bud, I will do. Keep on the long march up the mountain, because eventually you'll reach the top, and then you'll keel over and die, but at least you got to the top. Lassa Botcha, I think is how you say that. If I have said it wrong, I apologize. You earned your 10k, keep up the good works, but could you put more memes in the thumbnail, please? Also catapults or trebuchets. Put more memes. I'll put in memes when I think it's necessary. A lot of my content is quite serious, so, memes doesn't make a lot of sense. But when it's a video where I'm annoyed, or where it's a video where I'm having a bit of fun, yeah, I will do. I have done in the past and I will do in the future. Catapults or trebuchets? Now, this is pretty much do you want to be efficient, or do you want a big boom? Because with catapults, obviously, they're much more efficient than trebuchets. But I tell you what, trebuchets look damn fine. I think trebuchets are really interesting. It also depends on what you're sieging. If you're sieging, like Warwick Castle, you want trebuchets. But if you're sieging Scarborough Castle, you want catapults. So it all depends what you're trying to siege. If we're just talking about in general, though, I would definitely say trebuchets, just because the way that they fling stuff is mesmerizing to me. If you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, and you've watched the Battle of Minas Tirith, you've seen the trebuchets and how they work, right? Flinging, big pieces of rock, very impressive. Where catapults, it's a quick, schlump punch. Whereas a trebuchet, it's a, you get what I'm saying. There's a lot more flinging and there's a lot more momentum. It just looks really cool. I think is the best way of putting it. So yeah, trebuchet. Frank Bradley, officially a 5-digit sub-channel. Congrats, man. 11k will be here shortly. Yeah, you're not wrong. We've already hit it. What are your most favourite obscure battles during World War II? And what vehicles do you think is criminally missing from each nation in War Thunder? Bloody hell. Right. The B-26 for the Americans. The Germans, what are they missing? Oh, the Stug 4, of course. No. Do we have the Stug 4? No, we don't. The Stug 4 for the Germans. For the Soviets? What is missing for the Soviets? I mean, there's some weird KV variants you could add in. There's also just the standard. No, that wouldn't work. I don't know for the Soviets, actually. I mean, you could maybe look at planes. With the addition of the I-225 and the I-185, there's a bunch of other weird and wonderful prototype aircraft that the Soviets had, which were like high-altitude fighters. It would be nice to see them. There's also the I-16 with the skids. I would like to see that. For the British, the Covenanter, or the Valiant, or there's a bunch of variations of the Hurricane they could add, which I'd love to see. There's also the Whitley, of course, the Manchester, the Shackleton, basically any British bomber that we don't have. What else? What else is there? Japan, there's a bunch of weird and wonderful rank 3 tanks they could add, which are just variations of what we already had. I looked at them in a video I did a little bit ago about the R2Y2, so that one. I believe it's like an improved NATO with 100mm. That would be pretty cool. Then for the Italians, any Italian tank. So, the P40 would be cool. Or the M40, I should say. The French, I would say the Batchat, but they've got the Batchat. So, you could have the Mystère jet. I feel like that'll be one of the early rank 6s for the French. What else? What else is there for the French? There's probably a tank that I'm forgetting. I mean, eventually we're going to get the Leclerc, right? But I don't think it's criminally missing. I don't think the French have anything that's criminally missing. There's a few weird-ass bomber variants that they don't have yet, and also a backwards project aircraft that you could probably add in, but yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. But yeah, I hope that I've answered that well. There's definitely a few vehicles from each one which, should be added. Sean Dalton, in your opinion, what makes War Thunder such a good game? The fact that every battle is different. I know a lot of people don't actually believe that, but every battle is slightly different, and that's because of the PvP nature of it, and it's also because of the different tanks. The fact that also bombers are actually kind of viable in the game. There hasn't really been another game that's made bombers viable like War Thunder has. I know a lot of people, complain about their viability, but they are more viable than a lot of other games. What do you hope to see improved or changed in the future? A lot more emphasis put on stuff like World War mode would be really good, and also Enduring Confrontation. Ari Pierce says, hello there. Hello. Kaneki EDMZ says, first viewer, and also, what vehicles would you like to see in War Thunder in the future that would be in 6.7 or below? The B-26 Covenanter, Whitworth Whitley, basically all of the weird-ass British medium tanks that they made, which are all awful and very similar to the Crusader. All of those big lads. All of the variants of the Hurricane would be lovely. I should actually do a video on this, because there's a bunch of different vehicles, like I just talked about, like the Stug 4, which are criminally just not in game. So yeah, I would pretty much just say them right now. But there are definitely a lot more I would like added to the game. I mean, you could even talk about a bunch of World War I stuff. So that's the actual... that's these questions done. Now, we have other questions. God damn. Here we go. No. Let's go back up. So, I asked on the TEC Hub to talk about questions that people had. Why does it keep going down? Right, here we go. Let's find the top. This is a problem with having quite a large Discord. A lot of people post stuff. Let's see. Just making sure I hit the start of it. Here we go. So, the first question is from Rocker. What? Great start. Warden Frost, do you think the skink will be added? Yes, I hope it's in the British tree. Tails the Great-ish. What is your favourite tank? Right now, the Char 25T. It is an absolute masterpiece of a light tank. Fast, forwards and backwards. Armour is trolley. And the gun is very good. Floke, what is your favourite thing in the new updates? I think the changes to the map design are very realistic. It's good signs for the future. Nathan, have you ever punched an ostrich? No, but I have eaten an ostrich egg. Fuzo, what do you expect about the future of War Thunder? That's very broad, but my guess is more modernised vehicles is the best way of putting that. Oryx, do you think War Thunder will run out of stuff to add? No, because even if they add in all of the mainstream vehicles, there's still millions of prototypes. Like, I don't think you understand, especially when you look at Soviet, American, and British designs, there was just millions of them. And if you wanted to go down the paper prototype route, like, endless possibilities. Now, types of vehicles, yes, they will eventually run out at some point. But when we're actually talking about just vehicles, yeah, it's going to take them years. The soggiest wanker, can I have your YouTube's username and password? No. Player, TM, thoughts on the I-225 and what it brings to the meta of 6.0, 7.0? Doesn't really bring a lot, just like the P-51H. It's a really fun aircraft against other super props. It's a really nice challenge facing the P-51H and the Spitfire Griffin. I've nearly got it spaded, actually, which is good. The problem with it is it faces a lot of jets, and props versus jets are really, really boring. I hate facing jets and props. I feel like I'm at a massive disadvantage. That's why I advocate for a wall between props and jets. Casual Finnish tankers. Do you believe that if Finnish tanks and planes were ever added, they will keep their swastikas? No, they won't. They'll just have a different roundel, because... well, otherwise, it may piss off a few places. You've got to remember it is still illegal. Even though in Germany they've made it legal for, not media, but entertainment to show swastikas. In places like Russia, it is still illegal. So, no, you won't. Rocker, why do you do this to us? To give you a chance to ask a question. Nathan, are you a mole for Mothra? No, I'm a Godzilla dude. J. John 2002, do you think the RP cost for each helicopter should be reduced and the RP gain should be increased for testing the copters? Yes. Enforce Leo 44, what will be of the Panther 2 and Tiger 105 and all of the other paper vehicles in War Thunder. The only two that has been confirmed to be taken out of the paper vehicles are the Panther 2 and the Tiger 2 105. So they'll be gone at some point. We don't know when. Fuso, when will be the Italian tanks? Will be the Panzer 1 Breda? I mean, why not? You know, I'm all up for all the, even the worst tanks to be added, because now that we have the scouting ability, if you have a bad vehicle, let's just see, is this all working? Yeah. If you have a bad vehicle, it can still be used in some capacity. Player TM again. How about we try this one at a time? Well, that ain't ever going to work, is it? Pytor, TC, you aware of the new rumours for the new nations? No, I'm not. But it would be cool to know about them, so if you're watching this, Pytor, hit me up. Also, I do want to do that War Thunder talk. I think that would be really cool. Talking about the Swedish nation. Rocker, where is she? What, the Bat? No idea. Where is he? Well, like that, the Batman. Shimazi Chan, your stance on tier 6 air battles and this? Well, that looks incredibly fake. But Willie's Jeeps with stuff like bazookas on them and recoilless rifles, that'll be really fun. I mean, we already have scouts, so just make them scouts, and I mean, it's pretty much just a faster Type 60, right? Now that we've figured out how to do wheels in the game instead of just tracks, yeah, chuck them in. Screw it. Let's go. The tier 6 air battles, I won't enjoy them, but it is how it is. I understand a lot of people will, and that is what's important. Wintersol, when Doki Doki stream, it'll be soon. Generator, hi TEC. I was wondering if you had any plans of a custom battle Cold War themed from the 50 up to the modern day stuff to do screenshots and record footage. I hope you will take into consideration, as I think a lot of people would like to do something like this. That would be really cool, actually. With the M48s, M60s, and the Soviet tanks. Yeah, let's do that. Let's set one of them up. Shimakaze, what's your stance on censorship? It doesn't work. I believe in freedom of speech to the absolute nth degree. Doot, what would you think about Israeli tanks in game, such as other versions of the Magak and Makavas? Would they have their own tech tree or be part of another one? I think you could do what you've done with the US helicopters, where you say, okay, if you get to rank 4 ground forces for the Americans, then that opens up an Israeli tree. I think that's what you could do. I know a lot of people would see that as they might not be happy with it because of the politics behind it and all of this, but you've got to make concessions in a game, and generally you don't want to piss people off, so maybe it might not be the best idea, but I think that's how you do it in the long run. Talking about the censorship one again. Yeah, I don't believe in censorship. Doesn't work. It's much better just to talk to people and discuss ideas instead of just get rid of them. Because if you get rid of them, then they just spread the ideas in a different place. And if everybody shuts them out, then they go either crazy or they find other people who are also crazy, and then everything goes downhill. Shimakaze clan, but how? Think about it, a nation that directly starts at tier 4 or 5, yeah. So basically like helicopters. OP Senator, who's your favourite mod? You mean out of this moderation team? I mean, I like them for different reasons. I like talking to Weasel because he's chill as fuck. Actually, no, a lot of these mods, a lot of my mod team is really chill. But I like, the great thing about the moderation team is that they are good for different reasons. So, Mega Oof, or Mills, is great because he is younger and he knows how to deal with them kids, but he's also got a mature mind. Weasel, I'm just looking at the guys who are on right now. Weasel, our Australian compatriots, very, very sound of mind, very relaxed, very polite, which is important, and once again values stuff very similar to me. Dog is a workhorse. Like, I can't even believe how much stuff he does. Like, he impresses me every day. And if it ever got to a point where, I knew him in real life and We had a job opening for someone that I was interested in, he'd just get it straight away. Hillbilly is once again a great addition because it's another link to the kids, and obviously I struggle with that. James has a very sound mind and is great to talk to, mainly for me personally, because he's from the area where I'm from. So it's great to just talk stuff about, where I'm from, because a lot of the people on the Discord are either American or European. They're not English, and they're not Northern English. So having some Northern English people to chat to is great. John is wonderful as well. Once again, sound of mind, which is really important. And Andreas, our German companion. Andreas is great because, once again, he's of sound mind and isn't too worried about dropping the hammer. And you need people who want to make decisions. Every decision that he's made in the past has been fair, just like the rest of them. I think it's easily the best moderation team that I've ever been a part of or that I've ever seen. Like, these guys have or make great decisions. They know exactly what they're doing all the time, and they're of sound mind. Like, we put together a great team on the TEC hub, and at some point, we will expand it, but for right now, I think we're good where we lie. And of course, the Big Daddy Mofo, and Rex and Tazzy, two friends I've had for a very long time. The guys behind the TEC hub are just great. Like, they're all wonderful people, and I'm very happy that I've met them all, and I'm very happy that they make the workload that I have a lot easier. Favorite mod of War Thunder, OP Senator, and Collusion. What would you love to see as a feature in War Thunder? That's by Gentlespeak. The favorite mod of War Thunder, I like OP and Collusion for different reasons. OP is very open, he's very kind, and he's also, the main thing I like OP about is if I have a question, he doesn't bullshit. He answers straight up and, talks exactly what he means. There's no fluff or anything like that. And for me, that is grand. The one thing, the main thing I like Collusion about is he's all about the community. He's about trying to get people together, trying to get stuff done. And you can see that with, what Fly is doing with this, Twitch streaming stuff. Collusion's trying to get people in on a podcast, trying to get people talking, and this is what you need, right? You need people to do this, and it's nice to see that he's trying to do it. What would you love to see as a feature in War Thunder? I know what I said before, but I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah, let's go with Air Radar. Air Radar would be pretty cool. Just a guy, you really have no clue how to fix helis? No. Because there isn't one. You know how you make helis good? You basically just do what they've done now. You lower the SP cost to a point where you can spawn them in first hand with 80 gems. And you get rid of aircraft from ground forces. Helicopter on helicopter battles seems a lot of fun. I think reducing RP costs would be a good idea as well, at least for the first heli that you can research. But overall, fixing helis is not something you can do because all of the counters that they have, or at least are designed to have, are already in game. So, they can already annihilate you. So what you have to do is you have to remove those counters, or you have to play in game modes where those counters don't exist. So in the helicopter versus helicopter, that's where helicopters are fun. But if you add them to ground forces, they're either going to be overpowered forcibly through SP costs, or they're going to be completely useless. And right now, they're pretty useless. At least the ones I've seen. Andromeda. That was from Just a Guy 1250, by the way. Andromeda, what is your opinion on the M1 IP performance in-game compared to real life? Do you think this vehicle needs a change or not? By the way, did you know the M247 doesn't have radar in-game? Are you sure? Because when I tested it, it did. So, I don't know. When it comes to real-life performance of the M1 IP, guess what? It's all classified. I've no idea. Welcome to Rank 6. Isn't it really fun? I love having conversations about realistic tanks that I have no idea about because all the information is classified. You want to talk about the Leopard 2A4 and how it's got the wrong armor package? I don't. Because guess what? It's all classified. It also had different armor packages. See, this is the problem with the whole thing. I can't answer that question. Because there's no information I can have. Simple. North Atlantic Protectorate. If there would be a Tier 6-7 jets added, do you think there would be an F4 variant as a premium? Probably, yeah. Because that would get people to buy it. Or probably an F1. They'd probably start with like an F100 premium. And then later down the line, an F4. Yeah, I think that would be a thing. ETSM Gentlespie. Would you like to see Tier 9 tanks in War Thunder? Talking about April Fool's ones in the long future. I think whether I want to see them or not, they're coming. So we're talking about modern day Challenger 2s, M1A1s, M1A2s, even maybe that ridiculous Abrams with the massive gun on it. The Leopard 2A5, 2A6. Yeah, these things are coming. I think it's obvious from now that they're coming. So, yeah. What's my opinion on them? I'm not that interested. As I've said many times, I'm not a modern tank guy. I'm a 1930s to 1950s tank guy. Denken Schneck, TC, will you send me a cookie? What type? You gotta tell me what type, mate. I can't just send you a cookie. What if you're allergic to something? Ridgely. Oh, by the way, Ridgely, I just want to say that I always enjoy, your PMs and stuff, and also the stuff that you write. It's really nice to read and it's refreshing. So thank you. What is your opinion on early supersonic jets like the F4 and the Mikoyan Gurevich? So the MiG 21. Since we have the Vietnam map and helis getting at missiles. Also, what's your opinion on Gaijin making Vietnam into a large-scale tank event map? Well, on the dev server, there was mention of a Vietnam tank map. It wasn't on the official dev server, but neither was the Vietnam air map. So my guess is in the next updates or so, we are going to get some kind of Vietnam tank map. Whether it's a large tank map or not, that will have to seen. It would be cool to have some kind of enduring confrontation style tank event, but I think right now just focusing on new maps would be an idea. So I don't think it'll be a grand scale one. Also, what's my opinion on early supersonic jets? They'll get added to the game. I have no interest in them. Peshka, favorite helicopter? The AH-1Z. I think it's the sexiest, and it's the one which is the most efficient. There's an argument between it and the Mi-35M. I think the AH-1Z is the most efficient. Marios 98GR. Is it possible for a Vickers Mark 7 in the future? I think you add that, don't you? I think you add the Vickers Mark 7. It makes sense to add it. It would be a good backup to the Challenger. And when we talk about backups to the Challenger, I mean, you're kind of limited when it comes to the British. You either have a backup Challenger for a Challenger, or you have a backup Vickers Mark 7. So yeah, they should add that in, definitely. I'd love to see that. Peshka, also, should we have Hellfire missiles? Yeah, why not? I mean, screw it. Let's give helicopters absolutely everything to try and make them feasible. And then when we give them absolutely everything and they're not feasible, then we can talk about how helicopters might need to change structurally in the game instead of just adding more random junk to them. Power 8 Hero, can you do a video drunk? How do you know I haven't? But if you mean like drinking on a stream or something, yeah, I think we'll do that one day. It's normally not the best idea. Like, I won't get heavily drunk, but we'll have a giggle. Neutronium, what's your point of view on heavy strategic bombers in the game? They don't really have a place right now in aerialistic. I think they have a place in enduring confrontation. I hope we get to a point where they do have a place, because I really like flying them. Especially in stuff like Simulator EC. I think that's really fun. North Atlantic Protectorate again. Do you think Naval will see a technological power creep to Aegis destroyers after enough time? Do you think such automated weapon systems would work well in Naval? I mean, we already have automated weapon systems, in the form of AI controlling guns, so I don't see why not. I think with Naval, they're kind of worried about adding in, more modern day stuff, because there is a lot of crazy things you could add to Naval. So I'm not sure yet. It's still way too early on to see what they want to do. So I think right now, probably not, but in the future, when it's gone into OBT, we actually see more of what they're planning to do, we can have this discussion again. Power Aid Hero again. How do you grind War Thunder when you don't feel like playing and you hate pretty much every other game? I focus on other stuff. So I focus on my war bonds and I focus on the decals. So if you have a big project, right? The best thing to do is to split it up into small parts and then complete each part as you go and then put it all together. Any head of department, any project manager will tell you this, and the reason you do this is because it makes it easier for you. Oh, by the way, Matrix, also great. Tech guy, knows everything, helped me build the computer that I have, gave me some parts. Wonderful lad. One of the nicest guys I've ever met and one of the kindest guys. When it comes to grinding, you need to focus on these small things. So you focus on getting a modification. You focus on getting a decal. You focus on getting a camouflage. You don't focus on keep looking at the number. Don't look at the number. Don't look at the number. I'm going to repeat this again. Don't look at the number. The number which I'm referring to is the number of research that you have in your next vehicle. Never look at that bloody number. Don't look at it. Just don't do it. It's bad. Gentle Speed. What is a vehicle you would never want to see in a vehicle? Stuff like supersonic jets don't count. The ME-262 HGs, or anything which is fantastical, which is seen as a 1946 vehicle which would have been built if the war kept going. So stuff like the E50M, or just the E50, the low, the Panzer, I think 7 low it is, anything that's fantastical and pretty much like, how it's IL-2 1946, none of that shit. We need to scroll down. Colonel Hans Lander of the SS. Will we ever see aircraft and tanks go to a reasonably affordable price to use? To use tanks like the AMX-40 and the M1IP is a big blow to the wallet, and it's not fair in my opinion. Same goes to jets. The vehicles/aircraft we want to use, we are held back by the price of repairing them. Most of the vehicles I want to use and actually get to know them and use them well, I can't because of the repair costs. See, as a player who plays a lot of Rank 3 and Rank 4, I've never had an issue with Lions. Never. I'm at 22 million. And it's just growing, and the only time it doesn't grow is when I purchase a new vehicle or a new update comes out. When I started this year, I was around 10 million, because I'd been depleted from the Italians, the French, the 2 French trees, and the Italians coming out, right? I was at 10 million. Through this year, I've gained about 12 million, and that's with buying stuff on the day I've researched it, with buying modifications and everything like that. The issue is the dump of Rank 6. If you get out of Rank 6, and you play other vehicles, such as Rank 4 stuff, and, spade them, then it's much, much better for your in-game wallet. I think, though, when we talk about stuff like the M1IP and the MX-40, it is a little bit gargantuan on the prices, so at some point they will be lowered. Now, my guess, as I said, is in about a month's time, something like that, but we're going to have to see. We really, really are. Unix, what are your thoughts regarding the current status of Canada's current military position in the modern field of conflict in regards to their strength, influence, expenditure, and impact around the world. Well, I've been reading a lot of news stories recently that we are low on recruits for pilots. Like, we don't have a lot of... I think we're 250 pilots short, something like that. To be quite honest, when you are kind of a protectorate state, in a way, which we kind of are at the moment, the military conflict side of things is not as important as others, such as economical. So when it comes to military strength, I don't think anybody looks at Canada and is worried about Canada, taking over the world through military might, like you would somewhere like, Russia, America, or China. But what you're looking for Canada for is much more of economical might, and that's where the real, if you want to call it, current status of Canada's power comes from. It's economic might compared to such powerhouses as China. So, military position, we're in a pretty good position. We are allied with the major countries who hold hegemony over the world right now, and I don't think that's going to change in the future. If we're talking about individual power, militarily, yeah, it's not very big, but it doesn't have to be. That's not how this system works. Powered Adhero, that's not a question. Lieutenant Grumpy, what do you think of the new SP costs? It's one way to get helicopters more involved in the game and take the onus away from CAS again. It seems like Gaijin is still struggling with the issue that CAS is always going to dominate tanks, so the only way you can do it is by pricing them out of the game, or just not bringing them in the first place, saying that you can't bring them in. So, it's simple as, really. I think they're fine, but I think I like them for ground vehicles, but when we look at the costs for the aircraft and the helicopters, I think the helicopter costs are fine, and when it comes to the aircraft, they're doing what they have to do to make helicopters viable. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they keep banging the drum of the helicopter, trying to make them work, or if they go back to the system we had before. Fabi says, pew pew, bang bang. Powered Hero, who inspires you and challenges you to become a better person? My father. My father is one of the best people I've ever met. If you want to know where a lot of my knowledge of philosophy, how to deal with situations, how to be able to put forward my points, how to make everything coherent and make people understand exactly what I say, that's from my dad. He spent hours upon hours of lecturing me about specific things, and I'd listen to every word. He still does it today. We have a Skype call every either Monday or Tuesday, and we sit there an hour, 2 hours, talking about things going on. And the majority of the time is 80% of him talking. And the reason why I'm fine with that is because he's always been like that. He's a dictatorial guy, and he is really knowledgeable about stuff. Amazingly knowledgeable. So, that's where I get my inspiration from. My dad has been a person for 30 years now where people have relied on him to do stuff, and he's done it. He's never faltered. He was able to, help me grow with my sisters, even with all the challenges that he faced. So when I look at my life, I think, God damn, I have it easy. And I think about my dad and at his age and how hard he's worked. And he's done absolutely amazing, and I want to do that too. And he came from a much worse position than I did. So maybe I can even do better than him, and I can help live on his legacy as a person who benefits people around them, which is what I like to do. I like to help people. I like to make sure they're alright. I like to care. And I know a lot of people look at me, they think, a big caveman, obviously he's grumpy, he's he's aggressive, all of this stuff. Yeah, sometimes I can be, because it has to be done. But a lot of the time, I care about everybody around me. If you could talk to any of my friends, my family, they would tell you. I never come first. In my mind, I am always second. Everybody is put before me, and that is how I work. If somebody needs help, and it's at a detriment to me, we're doing it. I will survive, but they might not, so they need help first. Joaxa, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. Fabi, is anime good? Good is subjective. I think is the best way of putting it. There are certain animes I like, right? The ones I like are kind of the nitty-gritty ones. But when I see some of them which are like, ooh, all of this stuff, all up and, how you doing? Yeah, woo, all this. Like, no, that's not my bag, baby. I'm much more into the ones which have a story, like Blood Sea. So, yeah, I think some anime is really fun to watch. The majority of it, though, I'm never going to get into because it's that weird high school, upper-pitched, lot of energy. And if you haven't noticed, I ain't that kind of guy. So, yeah. Let's see. Gentle Speed. Is Fabi a trap? What's a trap again? A trap? You gotta remember I'm a bit old, and I've been focused on other stuff over the years. So I think a trap is a lad who dresses up as a lass and then lures you into the bedroom, and then you find out they're a lad, but you still do the dirty anyway. Right? So with that said, is Fabi a trap? I don't know. Maybe. The thing that I don't think Fabi is, I don't think Fabi is this. I'll be very surprised if Fabi is some weird pixie person, so maybe. Who knows? Dog for life. Do you feel the way your content has improved over the time you have been doing YouTube was how you expected it to be? Also, how do you feel about the current state of YouTube, and do you feel it's still possible for new content creators to be successful, not only in War Thunder, but in general? Well, we see new content creators all the time come out of the woodwork. Unfortunately, a lot of them right now seem to be very much heavily sponsored by other larger conglomerations. So, as an individual, yes, it is definitely harder to come out of the woodwork. For me personally, a lot of people gave me tips which I didn't follow. Collaborating with others, clickbaity titles, energy, all of these things. If you think about the archetypal YouTuber, you don't look at me. And you shouldn't do, because I'm first of all not the archetypal YouTuber. I'm also not making a living off this. I'm nowhere near making a living off this. So the question may be better given to somebody else. But how have I improved over time? I think my speaking has got a lot better. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, you sound bored all the time. Well, yeah, I've sounded bored from birth. That's just how I am. But when it comes to actually being able to be understood, I think that has helped over time. Like, there's a reason why I have quite a large, European non-English speaking audience and also the English speaking audience, because I speak slow. And that helps a hell of a lot. A booming voice helps a lot as well. Something that helped me a lot with this was learning which words to emphasize, learning how to do pauses properly, and the only way you learn this is either through experience or through elocution lessons. For me personally, when I was in the last year of university, I did a course which wasn't tied to the university, but I knew I'd do it on public speaking and how to get points across in a good way and make people listen to you, right? And that's what I did. I took that course, and now I understand how to phrase a sentence so people get what you're saying, even if it's completely off the top of your head, like all of this has been so far. Obviously, perseverance is a big one. I think it's harder to get noticed nowadays. I definitely agree with that. It would be much better at shoring up with a company, such as like a news company. By the way, look at this thing. Yeah. A news company or something like that. But, as I said, I'm just not the person to go to for this. The improvements that I've made on my content are, instead of trying to do what everybody else is doing, I decided very early on that I was going to do things my way. And what that meant was creating a place that discussion was going to be had, debate was going to be had, and going for an older audience, or people who are interested in discussions over gameplay. And I understood that this would never be a large audience compared to everybody else. So that's who I targeted, and that's who I've gone for, and it's worked. So the first thing, when it comes to improving content, was the fact that I decided what my demographic was going to be. So that's what I did. And that's what I catered for. I think we could probably do like a 2-hour discussion on all of that. The majority of it, though, is just trying to see, how the community reacts, and also community interaction. One thing that I think is very important is just talking to people, no matter who they are. Everybody, to me, when I meet them, blank slate, I just have a chat. It doesn't matter who they are to me. It doesn't matter what other people have said. I know that they're just a person, I'm a person, and I need to make my own decisions. I hate it. I don't use the word hate a lot, but this is something I really don't like. Before meeting somebody, if somebody is telling me about what that person is like, I don't like that. I don't like ideas being put in my head about a person before I've been able to talk to them. That is something that I cannot stand. So, if you are either bringing somebody to talk to me, or are, you want to warn me about somebody, just don't bother. I'll make up my own mind. I don't like being influenced like that. It leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, and it makes me feel like the person trying to do that is trying to dominate the other person. And yeah, I much prefer the blank slate theory, and so far it's worked very well for me. What can we expect the Doki Doki Literature Club Let's Play? Pretty soon, actually. And then Colonel is back. When we see more wheel TDs and IFVs? I think I asked this question last time, but now this question is more relevant. So vehicles like the BRDM series, BMD series, AMX-10RC, blah blah blah. They play a good part in my opinion. Scouts and IFVs already help repair all tanks. Gaijin could also add IFVs replenishing allied tank crews as they carry troops in the back. The issue you have, and yes, I agree with that last point, it would be a cool mechanic to add. The issue with this is, for me, and people like you, Colonel, these are really cool ideas. For the general community who wants to win, what they see is a vehicle which isn't going to be meta and isn't going to be useful. This is why not a lot of Germans are playing the TAM right now, or trying to get the TAM, because the M1IP and the T80B is a better prospect. So if they decide to give an MBT to another nation, and give every other nation IFVs, then guess what everybody is going to play? People like winning. Human element of matchmaking. That's the issue with this. So even though I personally, and you personally, would like to see more of these, what we have to do is do an all-or-none approach, where we add them in for every nation at once, without any MBTs, or we keep them out until we can get to that point. Ace. Opinions on bigger ships like the Prinz Eugen in War Thunder. I think they would take away even further from my dream of having a combined battles fight. I like the idea of having tanks, aircraft, ships all on one map. To me, that is bliss. And the more bigger ships we add, the less chance that happens. Radeon. Do you hate minorities? No, I am a minority, you Burke. I'm an immigrant. Remember? Goddamn. But no, I don't hate anyone. I actually don't think there's a person I hate. There are people I despise because of the way that they act and the way that they treat others, but hate is a very strong word, as I've said in the past. Fabi, do I like the EU? No, not at all. I don't like people being able to govern others without any repercussions. And what I see from the EU is exactly that. There is no recourse if the EU passes a law against you as an individual. And as an individual, you need to have some recourse. So yeah. Also, there is the business of the issues of how it's run, who gets to propose stuff. There's a lot of really shoddy and shifty things going on with that organization. Maybe one day I'll do a bunch of videos on it. Ford Cobra GT 500. Was the bombing of Dresden justified, and were the soldiers on the raid heroes or war criminals? Justification. If we take it from the point of view of was it good for the war efforts? The issue with Dresden, right? Dresden's an interesting one. I could make a 2-hour thing on this. First of all, the easy bit. Were the soldiers heroes or war criminals? They were neither. The soldiers were told to do a job. It is not their fault for following orders. So, if you want to label them war criminals for following orders, go ahead. I'm never going to do that. Because it was not their fault. They were ordered to do it. That conversation is for the higher-ups who made the decision to bomb it or not. But personally, no. I would not even call them war criminals or heroes. So, bombing of Dresden. If it was any other city in Germany, I think it's a much easier distinction to make. The reason to bomb Dresden, there is 2 theories. The first one is the fact that Churchill wanted to basically show what power he had towards the Soviets and towards the Americans and everybody else. He also wanted revenge for what had happened to places like London. So if you see it from that point of view, you can understand why they did it. The counter-argument, though, is the city of Dresden was vehemently against, or at least the places which were bombed, which were most affected, were vehemently against Adolf Hitler's ideas. And what we're talking about here is the lower classes, and what we're talking about here is not the middle-class bourgeois, but the lower working class. So the target may have been wrong, but was the idea wrong? And this is the question we have to deal with. Is the firebombing wrong? We already know the target is wrong. Now, can you justify the idea behind why it was done? I can, because I understand that in war, we live under different rules. It's very easy to say 2 wrongs don't make a right when you're not in a scenario and you don't want to send a message. But when you're in a scenario and you want to send a message and you're in wartime, things are going to be done which will shock and or many people, but have to be done to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Now that sounds absolutely horrible, doesn't it? It's called setting a standard. It's called going, if you're going to do this to us, we're going to twat you. It's kind of like with the police, right? If you were the police officer and you decide to shout profanities at them, the police are generally not really going to... Well, it depends. If you're in the middle of an inner city on a Friday night and you start shouting profanities, then they're going to get a bit aggressive with you. If you do it in a village, they're probably not going to. They're probably going to be like, oh, just piss off kind of thing. If you start pushing them and hitting them, guess what they're gonna do? They ain't just gonna sit there and take it. They're gonna twat you one. Now, if you think that's justified or not, may be the same reason why you may think this is justified or not. The policeman retaliating to instigate law and order by kicking your ass and putting you in jail, whereas with the bombing of Dresden, the Germans bombed a bunch of British cities. So in order to send a message that either this wasn't okay, or it won't happen again, or if you do this again, look what we can do to you, we're going to annihilate Dresden, you can see the dichotomy here. So for me, I think it was justified. Now, the soldiers, it doesn't take a heroic effort to drop bombs. Otherwise every RAF bomber crew would be all heroes. And I suppose if you want to broaden the term, yes, they were all heroes. Just like all of the fighter pilots in the Battle of Britain, all the ones who died, all the ones who survived, all the ones who fought for Britain. If you want to expand what hero means, which I think is justified in this account, yes, they were all heroes. But if you're talking about was this raid itself heroic? No. Was it a war criminal or was it a criminal raid? No. I don't think so at all. Also, once again, blaming soldiers for following orders is a really bad way of dealing with things. Because you can always say, yes, they could have turned around and said no. But in a lot of situations, they'd just be shot for saying no. So, yeah, sometimes you've got to take into the laws of self-preservation. And under British common law, yes, that can be a little bit dodgy. But yeah, at the end of the day, no, I don't think they were war criminals. Chris, does your mum bake pies or danishes or other treats of this nature? Unfortunately, my mum passed away last year. So, no, she doesn't. Ford Cobra GT500 was the Chinese liberation of Tibet, a liberation or a hostile takeover. I don't really know a lot about that. All I really know is that they killed the Dalai Lama at some point. But I mean, I don't really want to comment on the liberation of Tibet. I just don't know enough about it. Hey man, good video lately. Really puts it into perspective how bad the grind can be. It would take almost 2/3 a year to get a decent lineup of ranked 6 for a new player, or someone starting up a new nation. It's pretty bad. Not just with wanting all the new shinies, but with just wanting to play top tier in general. I think there should be something to look at here. For those new players who see the Abrams Challenger 1, Leo 2A4 and T80B coming to the game, how bad it might be for them to grind through many vehicles they might not want. Right, so you think the grind to top tier is too hard? I don't think so. I think if that was the case, there would be easy ways of dealing with it. You just folder a bunch of vehicles, like folder all the Shermans, folder all the TDs and stuff. I don't think the grind is too bad, though. Vin, will you purge the furries? Nope. Everybody has an equal opportunity on the server as long as you follow the rules, and we'll never have a rule which says no furries. Because as long as you don't piss on anybody, like, why should I piss on you? I know it sounds really odd, but if you're just gonna, let's just say you're a dude, you like to dress up in furry suits, maybe you want to dress up in BDSM gear. Sure, do what you want. But when you start going after people, such as saying, why the fuck are you a furry? Or what the hell are you doing, you weirdo? Then I gotta get involved, don't I? Because you're not treating people with respect. You are dehumanizing them. And maybe they want to be dehumanized in their own way. But you still gotta respect them. So for me, that's how I see it. I'm a dot. You mean you needed to ask to do so? No. Ford Cobra GT500, I want to know your position on state subsidization and support of utility monopolies throughout the US. I don't really know how it properly works in the US, but personally, the infrastructure that you have, I know a lot of people complain about it, but you got to remember the US is a huge, bloody place, and getting infrastructure around it is quite hard to do. On top of it, if you compare it to the majority of first world countries, it's still doing really well. Britain, for example, is in a much worse position than America is when it comes to utility. Canada is better now, but that's because of the private companies doing it, not the state subsidization issue. In America, the main problem you guys have is your government takes too long to do things, and this is the issue that the British government has as well. It takes 5 to 10 years longer to instill certain things that should be done very quickly because of how, the whole system works and how it is to pass stuff. So overall, I think to start, companies, state subsidization is good. If we're talking about mega corporations, stuff them. They have enough money to run themselves. And if that means that they turn the costs on the individual, lower the individual's taxes. These companies don't need your help. They're fine. Fabi, is communism good? No, because it takes away what is to be human. It takes away the morality, and it takes away the wanting to be the best, or the strive to be great. And that is the issue with it. It takes away purpose. It takes away morals. It takes away everything. Really bad. Can we purge the furries by Shrek Has Swag? No. Nito. In top tier ground AB, the aircraft use are helicopters, and they are sorted by armament. If the helis are going to be used as top tier aircraft going forward, do you think the armament system will be best? Would it be better to assign a different helicopter tally to each of the slots, like how air battles work in the previous tiers? Yeah, I think so. Just doing a different tiers will be better. I still need to see what it looks like though. The X-Stocks, what are your thoughts on the AH-1Z, since it is a modern heli? Also, do you think that we will see more captured vehicles like the American King Tiger and the likes of those? The AH-1Z is obviously the best, or the, it's basically a toss-up between it and the Mi-35M, which is the most efficient and best helicopter just because it gets access to 1680 gems. The ones I've seen on the battlefield, if they don't get rinsed by aircraft, are very much okay, but they're nothing special. It's nice to see that it gives a different way of playing the game, but overall, if we're looking from a helicopter standard, yeah, it's good. If we're looking from is it impacting the game a lot? No, not really. Captured vehicles, it seems like they've gone away from them for the time being. I think that's a good idea. Because I don't like facing the same vehicle that I'm in. I just don't. It's not something that I look forward to when I'm fighting the good fight on the battlefield. So I'm happy that they're going away from that. Will we see more of them? Yeah, I'm sure we will at some point, but I'm just happy that they're not doing a lot. John McCarthy, one of our wonderful mods. Outside of War Thunder, what is your favourite game? What was the first video game you've ever played? What/who is your favourite kaiju? Right now, when it comes to video game that I play, the issue with that is, what's a kaiju? What's a film genre? Oh, it's the giant monster stuff. Yeah, sorry. It's Path of Exile. I really like Path of Exile. The problem is, the way it works for me is I play War Thunder, and then I'll play another game while I'm doing it. So right now, I'm playing Cards, Kards, which is a World War II card game, and it's really cool. But the issue is because of the way that War Thunder works, I don't have a lot of time to play anything else. But if I was going to say another game, it would have to be Blitzkrieg 3 right now. Been really enjoying Blitzkrieg 3 when I've been able to play it. It's a good mix between the tactical side of stuff and also the actual on-battle stuff. Basically what Total War used to do really well, but in a World War II format. What was the first video game you've ever played? Now, it depends, because on floppy disk, I had a Thomas the Tank Engine game, which you had to actually boot up using BIOS. So if you want to put that in, there's that. But the one that I can actually remember was a game called Big Red Racing, and it was literally, it was a very simple racing game with different types of vehicles and also different tracks. There was one on the moon, there was a few in space. It was a lot of fun, but it was a really, really simple racing game. I didn't actually play a lot of games when I was smaller because I read a lot instead. But yeah, though, that is the game I remember, which was like the first that I properly played. It was my favourite kaiju, Godzilla. Andromeda. What if CA Des Moines was in War Thunder? I don't know what this is, so let's just have a look. It is a heavy cruiser. As I said, same issue that I said before. The problem with adding something like that is that it takes away from the ideal that I want to get to, which is combined forces. Why is Bird? Bird is the word from Pilot 784 Cubed. I believe that's you, right? You just changed your name. Yeah, it is you. What? From Lieutenant Grumpy. Why is Bird, Dog, and Catfish? What was that show? I never watched that show. Another thing is, I tell you what, in university I watched way more cartoons than I ever did as a kid, because I just never really watched them as a kid. 999, do you think War Thunder will be a balanced game one day? No, because of the way that humans work, because they always want to win, and always the only way you'd get a perfectly balanced game is if you have the same humans versus each other, like clones of each other facing each other, clones of tanks facing each other, same crews, same everything, then that'll be a completely balanced game. It's never going to get to that point. 999, do you think one day War Thunder will be less pay to win, so you don't have to pay a lot to grind well? You don't have to pay a lot to grind well. Mainly, a lot of people complain about rank 5 and 6, which is seen as like the late tier of War Thunder. And yes, you have to grind a lot for that stuff, but everything else is easy to get. I didn't pay for premium for 2 years, and I was able to get jets quite easily. Let's see. Jerry, why do you have to use this name? Do you agree that War Thunder should focus less on high tiers? Yes, I do. I would like to see more World War II stuff, but that's just because I'm interested in that. Voodoo Dragon, do you think the addition of more ground targets and modular bases in EC would allow helicopters to be viable in aircraft sim mode? Yes. Give targets to helicopters and make it so they don't have to fly across like 20 kilometers to get to them. Do you think the T-80B needs to be nerfed? No, definitely not. They are getting absolutely slammed across the way. Fat on the run. On the helicopters, how do you change so that a helicopter follows the rocket reticle and not the minigun reticle? You just go into the site that it uses. I have a mouse with USB ports. I was wondering another cool prototype of the T5564, which is a T55 with T64 parts. Do you think this would make a good budget 9.0 for USSR, like a T64 below cost? Yeah, I suppose why not, as long as it was built. X-Store, what do you think of the T55 M18 gets into the game? I mean, it would be funny, but kind of ridiculous. Once again, as I said, my stance is if it's built, if it's been tested to a decent amount, yeah, chuck it in the game. What is my favourite dish from Visky? We'll actually end on this one, because this one is, we were talking about something else, so that's not actually to do with this. So, favourite dish, steak and ale pie with mashed potato and peas. If it isn't that, it's Yorkshire pudding with steak and gravy, and no desserts. Just meat, Yorkshire pudding. I haven't had Yorkshire pudding in so long, man. Nobody does it well here. Nobody does a proper Yorkshire pudding, because the way that you do Yorkshire pudding where I'm from, you make a Yorkshire pudding, which is the whole of the plate, and then you put all the ingredients inside of it. But everybody does the little ones. The little ones are awful. You need the big one. One day, I will have my Yorkshire pudding back, and I will enjoy it, and it will be fun. But anyway, that pretty much brings this Q&A to an end. It's been a long one. I hope I've answered all your questions succinctly. If you think I haven't, or if you want some follow-up, please leave the question below, and I'll be able to get to your answer. I haven't been feeling too well recently, so yeah, just give me a bit of time. I'll get better, and I'll make sure that I'm in top-tip shape, or tip-top shape, to do everything for you as I normally do. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you once again for this wonderful achievement. This isn't just mine, this is also yours. 10K is a big number. Let's keep it growing. I'll see you next time.